Passions of the people were sleeping late into the evening. Reach behind, they could hardly find their spines. Passions of the people were sleeping late into the evening. Reach behind, they could hardly find their spines. Passions of the people were sleeping late into the evening. Reach behind, they could hardly find their spines. You said that you like all cars, I gotta beat about that. It was smoking back and died in your front yard. You find out who's dating who, but when it comes to you, one is pulled a dozen different ways in the mind. Something is not right with me. Something is not right with me. Something is not right with me. How was I supposed to know? Something is not right with me. Something is not right with me. Something is not right with me. I'm trying not to let it show.
Hey, we're sponsored today by Decode DC, the podcast that gives you an honest look into how politics affects your life. The host of Decode DC, Jimmy Williams. I used to do some Dylan Radigan shows with this guy. He's worked for Republicans, worked for Democrats, even as a lobbyist, and he's taken all that experience and explaining how things really work inside and outside of Washington. Decode DC is a smart, surprising, and it challenges the conventional wisdom, like in their recent episode about what moving day at the White House is really like, as told by someone who lived through it. I imagine it was a bit of a nightmare this year. Check it out. I did. I think you'll love it. That's Decode DC, available on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, January 27th, 2016. My name is Sam Seder. This is the four-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. It's Casual Friday, folks. In this era of the Mad King. On the program today, Cliff Schecter will be joining us to, I guess, partially review the week. If we were going to review the entire insanity this week, it would take the entire week. And then we would have to live it all over again. Frankly, I don't think I would make it. Also on the program today, has there ever been a time we needed to hear from Isabel Gillies more? I don't think so. All this and more on today's program as the Commander in Crazy is losing it over a crowd picture on the wall of the White House. Betsy DeVos driving huge calls to the Senate. Labor Secretary Pudzer punts again. Those top State Department departures apocalyptic or overblown? Weird arrests of supposed spies in Russia. And the EPA head nominee cannot name one EPA regulation he supports. Not one. Democratic leadership, however, yet to show they're up to the task. And is it Bannon or Priebus running the show, and does it matter? And since it's Friday, might as well tell you the Doomsday Clocks organization's issued its most dire warning since the Cold War. Ah, yes, all that and more, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Man. I don't know what to tell you. This is exhausting, folks. I mean, I know everybody is feeling this, and we've just got to pace ourselves because it's not going to go away for some time. Now, with that said, I stopped myself from writing a tweet along these lines. Now, I suppose all the reasons why it makes sense for me to stop myself when I'm going to tweet it probably would apply to me articulating it on this show. But I don't know. I just somehow I feel like I can get away with. I feel more comfortable articulating it. But I was going to ask, like, is it if just hypothetically, because I've been watching a lot of Trump footage over the past 24 hours. And I would have to say a healthy amount of it is the sassy Trump stuff. I don't know if people are aware of this. And you know what? We're gonna put a link to that in our newsletter. We're going to send out the newsletter this week. It's either going to go out today or tomorrow, sometime over the weekend. It is going to be a compilation of what we've seen so far of organizations and means in which you can get involved and do something, particularly in the sort of fight Trump, fight Republicans space, as opposed to like stuff around your community where you can help out other people. This is more geared towards capital P politics. And maybe what we'll include is a clip, because maybe some people aren't aware of this. But the guy who is the EP of Veep, right? Is it the same guy, or am I confused?
Armando Iannucci?
Yeah.
Who
doesn't he do the sassy?
No, that's Peter Serafinowicz does sassy Trump.
Okay, all right, I got confused. Well, nevertheless, I haven't seen that guy on Twitter. I wonder if I stopped following him. I haven't seen him on. All right, so these basically it's just a guy who redoes Trump's speeches in a sassier voice.
He works with Simon Pegg. He's in the what's the Simon Pegg movie with the zombies? But he works with those guys a lot.
I'm just gonna play well, you know what? I can't do it. Can you do it? Do the CIA one. Don't play the whole thing, but just to get a sense of it. And it's word for word, verbatim, what Trump says. But it really is like what I love about it, because it's a funny voice, but it really shows just how absurd. You can actually listen to the words that he's saying in some way and realize how incredibly absurd it is. But this is sassy Trump at the CIA.
I'm with you 1,000%. And the reason you're my first stop is that, as you know, I have a running war with the media. They are among the most dishonest human beings on earth. Right? And they sort of made it sound like I had a feud with the intelligence community. And I just want to let you know the reason you're number one step. It is exactly the opposite. Exactly, and they understand that too. And I was explaining about the numbers. We did a thing yesterday. The speech. Did everybody like the speech? You had to like it, right? Yeah. So I've been given good reviews, but we had a massive field of people. You saw that.
Okay, all right. We don't need to hear anymore. I mean, now this was he was doing this over the course of the campaign, and it was funny then. But now it just feels like literally like medication to me. Yeah. So we'll include that in the newsletter. And you can go and sign up for the newsletter on our site at majority.fm if you so wish. And so, I guess here's what my tweet was going to be, was because he looks like he's already been in office for like 18 months. And I mean, if you look at before and after pictures of Obama, he aged quite a bit. And I'm just curious if Trump has a heart attack or a stroke. And I'm not saying I wish this on him. I'm not saying it now. But if he does, I'm just curious, this is a thought experiment. Are people going to be sympathetic? Is it going to be like 10% of the population? I mean, now, granted, there's 30% of the population, 40% of the population right now, they're very ecstatic about Trump. Still are. A buddy of mine sent me a picture of a van that had a sign taped to the back of it in Florida offering to help Democrats. It was all misspelled, incidentally. Offering to help Democrats light themselves on fire or something to that effect.
It's helpful.
He's bringing people together. It's he's inspiring people to be more community service oriented. But I just wonder if he has a heart attack, if people are going to be sympathetic towards him. I mean, broadly speaking, I think no, but I imagine some, right? I mean, if he has a stroke, I saw my dog have a stroke. Now, I loved my dog, so I'm obviously going to be more sympathetic with my dog, but I wonder if we watch him have a stroke on TV. I don't know, just something to think about. It's Friday.
Yeah, no, I've actually given this some thought. Like, if he died, would people? It would just upset people on the level. Okay, so wait, he dies in this scenario, but
oh no, I'm just saying he's horribly crippled.
Oh,
yeah, no, I mean if he dies, he dies.
Well, no, if he dies, I think it would upset more people just because it's upsetting that the balance of power, and if it was not something natural that happened to him, it would be even.
Oh yeah, no. I think people would be
upsetting.
much more because nobody wants the presidency itself attacked. No, but I'm just saying, like if it's an act of God. I mean,
if he's on TV,
if
and
it's
he
God,
has a
if God
stroke,
does it. I mean, God does it. God
people
does
are
it.
definitely going to be upset, Sam.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just curious.
I
Just
mean, I guess we
curious.
could see like how much Dayton's support is rising because he had the stroke.
Yeah, but I think that's different.
Bit different.
I think it's different. We should say Michael's not here because he's sick. I can't say that with a straight face. No, of course he's hungover. It's not even close because he went to they did a live Two Dope Boys.
We had a live Two Dope Boys taping.
And he got too wasted, and then he writes me in the morning, "I'm sick, can't come in."
It's okay.
That's fine.
He doesn't.
I mean, I told him. I said, "You've misspelled. What do you write? Very sick today. I can't make it." He wrote, and I said, "You misspelled sick. It's spelled Hungover. Maybe it was just his spell check." And that's it. I think he's sleeping right now. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Cliff Schecter.
Life can be so fair, let it go on along. I could lose for good, you got that cherry bomb. Blow out that cherry bomb. For me, we lost it long ago. You and me, the spirit bomb. Brush your teeth for bed. Blow out that cherry bomb. Blow out that cherry bomb. For me, you got to know it's on your sleeve. Know it's on your sleeve. Know it's on your sleeve.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Seder on the Majority Report. It's Casual Friday, and even though we're living in the era of the Mad King, and our executive agencies are barred from communicating with the outside world, the authority coming from Sheriff Bannon and his henchmen does not stretch to outlawing and banning this song.
Cliff Schecter, Libertas LLC. New media, public relations, and strategy. You want any of these services, you know who you gotta see. Cliff Schecter, Libertas LLC.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Schecter. Hello, Cliff. How are you? This is the first time that we have spoken, I guess. Well, I mean, we spoke after the inauguration, but just after the inauguration. But now we have a full sense of what a Trump presidency looks like.
Exactly, and of course, our predictions were way off. He's competent. He's organized. He's self-confident. I really don't know what the hell we were thinking, frankly, and we should sort of be embarrassed about that.
It is. The thing I've been struck of is I think that he may not be able to handle the pressure.
I don't think he can, and I kind of felt like we've talked about this. I mean, I don't know if we've come right out and said it that way, but this has been a situation for a while, right? I mean, he has always been at his worst when he's under pressure. That is when he freaks out and he can't hold it together. Now, in some ways, it doesn't make him different than a lot of people. I mean, he acts like a bigger asshole than I think most people. But a lot of people feel at least internal turmoil when there's more pressure and that kind of thing.
Sure.
But we're usually searching for a president who can handle that kind of stuff, not one who actually gets a lot worse when the pressure's on. So, look, man, it's not good. I mean, we're still here. No cities or countries at this moment have been nuked. So
that's right.
Thumbs up on that.
Yes.
You got to take the little things where you can. But we're entering increased rivalry with China. Quite clearly, they're not just in word but in deed doing everything they can to undermine the EU, as well as the UN, as well as NATO and many other. So I mean, and this is their worldview. People really shouldn't make that mistake. The thing is you'd have to get somebody so grandiose in their vision, so out of their mind, to think they could make this work. But essentially what they're hoping to do, they want to go back, and their view is, basically Donald Trump is a predator in every sense of the word. We know about his personal behavior. We know about his predatory business behavior. And this is the foreign policy version of it, which is why form alliances and help out those that are less strong than you when you can plunder them. That's his view of the world. And who's the best to team with? Well, the other guy, big guy with nukes who's willing to plunder. So in his view, you undermine all these organizations so basically places like the United States and Russia can get together and say, we're going to go into this country, we're going to kill them and take their oil, which he's said those kinds of things. I mean, that is his view of how international affairs should work. So if you go with that in mind, all the rest of it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, one of the things that sort of got lost in the insanity that was his talk in front of the CIA was his sort of offhand mention of complaining about, we didn't get the oil when we went into Iraq, but you may have a second chance. And So, I mean, I guess we'll see where that goes. He's speaking to Putin this weekend. And then there's also, I mean, I don't want to get into this right now. I want to talk about the Democrats. But there is just that people should be aware of. There's been 3 or 4 arrests of Russian people who work in their cyber, I guess, their cyber programs.
Intel.
Yeah, Intel, who have been charged with being U.S. spies. And there was also another story about Rosneft, which is the huge Russian oil company. And there's been stories out about how like 19-20% of this company has been sold. Nobody knows to whom for whatever reason. They can't figure it out. And then it also just coincidentally had shown up in that 34-page dossier that Carter Page was offered 19% of Rosneft. I haven't dug into this stuff, but I just want to put a flag in that to, I mean, it's so hard to sort of parse through all this and figure out, what's what. So, but if people have, ideas about that, please send us emails. But let's talk about the Democrats, because we've seen, I mean, I don't know how sustainable it is. Hopefully it is. But at least in terms of the first week, we've seen all these markers that show there's a tremendous amount of, at the very least, anti-Trump sentiment out there, and it is motivating people to get involved. And
yes,
part of it,
obviously, look, the march, which happened since we last talked,
yep,
was incredible. I mean, the number of people were many times what were expected. It also drove Trump crazy because it was bigger than his little party. I live in a Midwestern city now of 300,000 people. We had 15,000 people out there, which is a pretty solid number.
Yeah.
Places like Chicago and like that had 400, 500, 300. I mean, it was and that was a serious rebuke, and we've seen it since then. And there are individual people, organizations doing phenomenal things. Right?
Move On had something like 25,000 people on their call or something. Some absurd number. There's groups that popping up everywhere that are very much organic, completely. Yep. I mean, the DNC as an entity seems to be completely missing in action. Now, part of that is because there's an acting head, I guess, and there's nobody there.
And they're really having the election right now for who's going to run it, and that's part of it. It doesn't change the fact that, look, yes, the energy out there is incredible. New organizations are popping up. People, you see places that you never suspected, or not suspected is not the right word, but you never thought you'd see political activity from, like Merriam, Webster dictionaries. If you don't follow them on Twitter, by the way, tweeting out things, about like the meaning of facts and stuff like that, complete subtweeting and screwing with Trump.
They also tweeted out clack.
And clack? Oh, did they?
Yeah, that was.
It was clack. That was it. It was awesome.
And clack, we should say. Let me just say, clack is the definition of clack is a paid group of applauders, essentially.
Right after the CIA incident, they did that. You see about a dozen breakaway, from the national parks and the EPA, who are people who are just like they're not listening to the gag orders, and I don't know if it's current employees, former employees, a combination of both, but they're tweeting out information and not listening. I mean, you see all this stuff, and you even see a couple individual members in office doing incredible things. I will tell all of you right now, if you are not following Congressman Ted Lieu on Twitter, you are missing a show. I mean, he tweets out stuff, and he makes sure in all his press releases the line about that Trump and Bannon lost the election, and that they lost the popular vote, and that they lie often is something that he's added to it. I mean, so you see it here and there, and you know what? I'll give credit where credit is due. There are some people. The one that comes to mind is Evan McMullin, who sits there tweeting at Trump about retweeting stuff constantly and pointing out how This is what an authoritarian does. It undermines democracy. And that's helpful because you need people across the political spectrum doing that stuff. So there is that. But, I've watched, again, this is not an unusual thing for us here, the Democrats in the Senate on a whole bunch of these nominees. Kirsten Gillibrand is the only one who voted against all of them.
No, she voted for Haley, but short of Haley, I think that's right.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, then there's that, and I think actually that's a bad one because Haley, when you want to look at Southern Republican governors or Republican governors, I suppose compared to Jindal or Brownback, maybe Haley did a decent job, but she doesn't know a damn thing about foreign policy.
No.
So she doesn't belong there. I mean, she's there because if you know Trump's view of the world, he looked at her and said, non-white person, foreigner, send her to the UN. Kind of like he did with Ben Carson, black guy, urban, send him to HUD, even though he knows. And therein is something, because you've had a number of Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, who voted for him.
Yeah.
And here's my problem. My problem is this. I'm not even asking them to be as bad as Republicans and obstruct people. Like, there's a part of me that says if there's people that are competent at what they do and actually will be a good influence in this administration, I want them there. So, classic example would be.
Well, that's her argument. I mean, that.
But I don't see how Carson is a good. Like Mattis would be my example. If I were in there, I would have voted for Mattis. Why? He believes in a two-state solution. He's going to oppose the insanity coming from our new Israeli ambassador and the stuff going on with Jerusalem. He may not get anywhere, but at least he'll be a dissenting voice. He's a dissenting voice on Russia. He believes very strongly in NATO and has said it's one of the best partnerships in the history of the world or something of that nature. That is somebody who I don't have to agree with on everything. I want him there. So I would have voted for Mattis. But when it's Ben Carson, who knows nothing about knows nothing about HUD, when it's DeVos, who knows nothing about education, when it's Nikki Haley, who knows nothing about foreign policy, when it's Perry, who knows nothing about what the Energy Department even does, I just don't know how you can justify voting for them. They're not qualified, and frankly, if a Democrat nominated them, you should vote against them. It's embarrassing. They shouldn't be there.
I got to say that. And I get the argument about Mattis, but my feeling about this is that there are no Trump nominees who are going to be voted down by the Republicans. Not one. Now, it's quite possible a guy like Pudzer may drop out because he's embarrassed. This is the Labor Secretary nominee because he's embarrassed about the fact that it's coming out that he beat his wife or something. And I'm not using that as an example. I'm saying literally, apparently,
the Trump people.
She dressed up and went in disguise and went on Oprah and claimed that she had been a victim of abuse.
Right. The drama never ends with these guys.
But my point is that the argument that Elizabeth Warren and Sherrod Brown made about Ben Carson was that not that he was competent, but that he answered all the questions well, and that there could be a much worse nominee put in there, which I think is probably correct. You could get someone who starts from day one. You could get a Pruitt version of a nominee. Scott Pruitt at the EPA.
Maybe. The guy had a picture of himself with Jesus up in his living room.
Well, I understand.
He's not what I'd call a model of mental stability.
No, that may be the case, but my point is that she's making that argument. I think as a matter of politics, the Democrats should not vote yes on a single nomination for anything. In fact, they should say, we're not participating in this until we see, and this is not an arbitrary thing, but I think they could pick any number of things, until we see the president's tax returns. So we can get a notion as to just how conflicted he is. So we can get a notion as to, because this, as far as we know, and there's certainly evidence, right? I mean, this is not far afield. Yep. There's plenty of evidence that this guy is operating in a way that is going to enrich him. And so they can make a principled argument that if
he's in violation of the Constitution.
In violation of the Constitution.
Up for
they
argument.
can make a principled argument, and I'm talking about this in terms of politics, where they could say, like, look, we can't go forward on any of this stuff until he conforms with what is the norm for presidents so we can make our decisions. Part of these, approving of these nominees is to know whether or not this is just him paying off his cronies in a way of enriching himself. And he hasn't fulfilled his obligation. So the downside.
That's my first. By the way, that would be my first preference, Sam, is that we wouldn't participate in this charade to begin with, but and to make him do it. But also, how about all these nominees? Many of whom haven't shared all sorts of information.
Indeed.
So I would, I mean, for them to actually do that would be my first choice. What I'm saying after that is, if you're not doing that and you are actually voting on these people based on their qualifications, there's only one person so far that I can find. I suppose you could argue Kelly is qualified for HHS, although, I have some real disagreements in some serious ways with him. But those are the only two I think you could even argue are qualified for their jobs that I'm looking at. I think the only one I could even get, I might vote for would be Mattis, just to have somebody who's sane on foreign policy next to Trump.
Yes, but he's not going. Mattis, if you don't, as a Democratic senator, if you vote against Mattis, he's still going to be the Secretary of Defense. That's my point. Is that none of them are going to vote. So and that assessment, and the only thing, I mean,
but with the other people, I don't want to give them my endorsement. Because when Carson goes ahead, and I mean that's where your vote is also, as you're saying, it's part of whether you're participating in this process or not. Whether you're saying this is somebody who's viable for this organization, and when the heck of a job Brownie moment comes, at HUD, because Ben Carson is asleep at the switch, and there's some huge scandal that ends up hurting people and stealing money, or with DeVos, it's education. I would not want my name on it, and to pretend that I endorse that.
Well, nobody's going to vote for DeVos. I mean, that's the thing. Is it that's what I'm saying, is that this is also a strategy. Chuck Schumer was communicating this strategy a month ago. He was saying, we're going to pick 3 or 4, and those are the ones we're going to vote against. And maybe, now, the only alternate narrative I have here, and so they're all going to vote against the DeVos. They're all going to vote against Pruitt. They're all going to vote against Pudzer, would be my guess. Maybe you'll see Mnuchin. You'll see more people vote against Mnuchin as well. I don't know, but that is guaranteed almost. They're all going to vote against them, and then Schumer basically released everybody else on the other things. And I mean, the only counter narrative I have, okay. And I don't know if this is happening. I just happened to stumble upon this. I don't know if this is happening around the country, but I know that Sheldon Adelson's group, I think it's called 45. It's a PAC that has been set up to buy ads.
Named to show 1/3 of his age?
Well, and just coincidentally, also Trump's he's the 45th president. I have this somewhere, but it's he's bought ads. He bought ads for Jeff Sessions, but he's running ads against Sherrod Brown right now, trying to stop Sherrod Brown, or I should say, encouraging Sherrod Brown to vote for Tom Price at Health and Human Services. And there's not a single dollar being spent by anybody around the country against these nominees. Not that I've heard of. I mean, this is it right here. So, and as well as anybody, Brown is running for re-election. And I'm not convinced his vote for Carson wasn't a function of that, and Warren's vote wasn't cover for that.
That's the other thing. I'm really more willing to forgive in certain cases. Look, I can speak very well to Brown. I'm in this state, and it's become a more hostile atmosphere. He's by far the highest-ranking Democrat we have in the state at this point. And his winning in 2018 is incredibly important. And the thing about Brown is he's been so principled on so many things in the past and voted yes or no on things when it was a risk because he's from here, even as a swing state. So I'm willing to give him a little more leeway. But when I see blue state senators from places where Democrats will win by 20 and 30 points doing this, voting for some of these people, that bothers me a lot.
Well, that's why I think Warren's vote either they have this really wrong perspective. I mean, just politically incorrect. I mean, in terms of taking the temperature of the Trump supporters and the non-Trump supporters, because I don't think, I just don't think it's going to work that way. I think Elizabeth Warren is just trying to add cover for Sherrod Brown. I mean, that's the only explanation that I could come up with is, because if Sherrod Brown was out there alone, he'd be getting slaughtered. But she's out there taking a lot of the flack. I'm not convinced that's not part of it. I don't know. I have no idea, and I can't find anybody who will confirm something like that for me. So
I think if the Senate were behaving in a different way, the problem is all this stuff adds up, right?
Yes.
The problem is when a few members of the House rise up to question the Electoral College. Not one Democratic senator is willing to join them. And it's not like anything would have changed there, but it would have been a statement. The problem is when 70-something members of the House refuse to go to the inauguration, not one Democratic senator is willing to join them.
Right.
In not going. Not any of the ones from blue states or whatever. I'm not sure what they thought they were gaining by being there. That's what happens. It bleeds into some of this, and you just feel like, my God. I mean, again, it just reminds you that you're fighting with people who always have both of their arms tied behind their backs, and it just gets it gets sickening after a while. It gets tiring. Well, you see the way the Republicans come into office. Barack Obama has historic, margins, or at least the largest in a long time in Congress, and this wave of goodwill, and he's at a 75%, 80% approval rating, and boom. They're opposing him on everything right away.
Right.
And we come in to this guy that lost by 30 million votes and was helped in by Vladimir Putin and helped in by Comey and helped in by massive voter suppression. And there just seemed to be, as you brought up something great about his releasing his tax returns, there don't seem to be any strings attached to anything, to any support for this guy, no matter how illegitimate he is. And I get so frickin' tired of fighting battles that people with much bigger names and much bigger positions than I have should be fighting for me. It gets exhausting.
And now let me just say this too, so that we get a sort of make this somewhat of a nuanced perspective. Polling has shown fairly consistently that Republican voters want their representatives to be uncompromising, and that Democratic voters want their representatives to be compromising. Now,
I think in the past you are correct. I think after that show of force on last Saturday and some of the things since, I don't know. Recent polls may be saying I'm wrong too, but it feels different out there.
I know, and
a lot of people out there that don't feel like compromising with Trump, who
that's
would
right.
have been fine compromising with a different Republican.
I would also argue that part of the reason why I think we see that polling from Republicans is because largely they have been there has been that there is a certain feedback loop, because they have more uncompromising politicians, and people, I think, get used to that and see that it's effective and whatnot. So there's a real dearth of leadership.
Rabies.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, but there's a real dearth of leadership, and this is the big problem with Chuck Schumer. I mean, as much as I have issues with his politics in terms of like where he is ideologically, which is fairly extensive, in these type of situations, the issue is that I don't think he's particularly good at this.
I don't either.
I don't think his strategy, his first thoughts about what the strategy should be, are particularly good about this. I mean, I think they're flailing around. They're trying to, and you can take a public position and then go and cozy up to Trump if the plan is in some fashion to peel Trump away from the Republicans. I mean, I get that there's almost like two different agendas, and the one can cut against the other. But, I mean, a guy like Trump, I think, like if Schumer was to go like, Donald, I had to say that in public. As much as anybody, but you and we can make a deal here. And you don't need Paul Ryan.
Trump would buy into that completely.
I feel like he would.
Kiss his ass in private, and he'll believe whatever the hell you want him to believe.
I think
you say nice things about him.
So I think there just seems to be a massive failure here. And,
You have all this energy that's waiting to be channeled into things, It's not even waiting. It has been channeled into many.
Well,
things,
that's
many
the good
of
thing about it too. I mean, we're seeing an explosion of more organic, I think, grassroots groups, which is great. The only part of this that also bums me out a little bit, and I guess I might be asking too much, is that there is so much of this is anti-Trump because Trump is a lunatic, disgusting human being in many different ways, as opposed to he is basically allowing and empowering a huge right-wing assault on many aspects of our government, if not all.
Yeah. Well, and it also has to be a part. I mean, part of that has to be sort of, which is a key part of that is in the manner again in which he won. I mean, if as much as I'd hate it, if this is Ronald Reagan 1984, and the Republicans just won by a huge margin and they're leading an assault, doesn't mean I'm not going to fight back. But I get it. Sadly, that's what my country wants. Whereas our country did not vote for this.
Right.
It did not vote for him. It didn't vote. There are more Democratic votes in the Senate overall. It's just where we've chosen to draw the lines based on a lot of old and bad crap in our history. It's how they've redrawn lines in gerrymandering. I mean, again and again. So, I mean, fundamentally, what they're doing this with isn't just not legitimate. It doesn't. I mean, we're a democracy theoretically, or a democratic republic, and it doesn't reflect the will of the people. And so that is my problem, is that, a right-wing assault is bad enough when it's backed up by all the people voting in the country. But this one isn't. And that should make it a lot easier to stand up and to make a point. And that's my problem. It's that he's incompetent and a creep and a disgusting human being on one hand. He's pushing a radically right-wing agenda on another, and we shouldn't be dealing with either of those things because he didn't win.
I think that, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take in the Democrats. I have to say that the name that keeps popping up in terms of what I, sort of am finding, good messaging coming out is Al Franken, frankly.
He's been good, too.
He's been good. I mean, hopefully, I don't know what has to change for Democrats to sort of get more, attuned to what's happening. And also, I think they have to prepare. They have to also attack Paul Ryan. They just can't let the Republicans in the Senate and the House be sitting on the sideline, as if they have no association with the president, who is a Republican.
Right. If they were to start right now and they were to run a full-out economically populist, socially libertarian campaign, for the most part, with some exceptions, against a number of these guys in the Senate, and make it a full 2-year affair. No, you may not have all the money for the advertising and whatever, but you can certainly start generating a lot of PR. Then who knows? 2018 might look entirely different.
Right.
Because you'd find a couple of these guys might be vulnerable who aren't. You certainly would find that Heller and Flake would be even more vulnerable. Again, I think that one of the hidden things is Ted Cruz, I think, could be vulnerable if the right person ran against him. One of the Castros, somebody, I don't know, in Texas. I mean, it's a state trending away, and he's a lunatic, and all the Trump people still don't like him. There's just ways you can undermine some of these guys who are up at 18, and if you push populist issues and you can convince a few of the Democrats to get aboard and not be idiots, if you convince your Heitkamps and McCaskells and Mansions to get aboard, I think you're looking at a different. You're looking at a whole different thing. I think you're looking at taking a bunch of House seats back too. But if you don't do that and you kind of flail around and you don't have a unified message and a narrative to explain why it is that Trump is terrible, why it is that Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are right there with him, and that the Republican Party itself is screwing people, then, it all becomes disjointed.
And if you have a president who is now, maybe something will change and he will rise from 35 to 40% in approval rating where he's at now, which is sort of just, it's mind-boggling that a president starts off this way. But, I mean, by 2018, I think he's probably. It's hard for me to imagine he can possibly drop below 25%, but
Dick Cheney did.
if he's between 25 and 30%, come the August of 2018, I hope Democrats have tied Republicans around their necks.
Let's never forget George
have tied
W. Bush.
Trump around their necks, because that's how you win a midterm. You
Right.
can't
Let's
allow
never
them
forget
to.
George W. Bush falling to 26%, I think was his total when he was on the way out of office.
Yep.
Let's never. I mean, and I can tell you a number of incidents or approval ratings in different states. There have been a number of governors who've fallen to the point of 20, 15%. Where just everybody's sick of them. So I mean, this again. It's not so difficult when you break it apart and you look at the fact that all of this is very doable. It's not easy, but in a way they own everything. And if you can just tie them together and have very straightforward messaging and take them on the most unpopular issues for them, which they're trying to attack, from people understanding that, wow, Obamacare actually is the Affordable Care Act and I'm going to lose my health care, to things like Medicare and other. I mean, this is all very doable. And I mean, everybody says, oh, it's over and there's no way you can win back right before it actually happens. Because I remember in 2006, nobody believed that anything could happen until it did.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's just so that's what is frustrating, because I don't see anything consistent out of Washington at this point.
Well, I mean, I guess the big question, what do you think is going to be the first big policy fight? I mean, Trump has signed these executive orders, some of which are have immediate impact, others of which are sort of more like, I resolve to do this, and all of which appear to have been written by Bannon without conjunction, without any, I guess, without any consulting from the agencies that are supposed to carry this stuff out. So, I mean, half the stuff apparently appears to be inoperable. Well,
and then there's the other stuff that just is leading all sorts of people, like top State Department officials, to resign en masse.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, there was a statement put out by the Association of Foreign Service Personnel, which, more or less said this is not a huge as much of a deal as is being put out. I mean, these are appointed posts, not necessarily career posts, and some are going to continue in foreign service and other positions. I mean, according to the Foreign Service Association, which is, I guess, their union. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
it's
I
tough
can
to
just
know.
talk about, well, there's that stuff that's been reported, and I can just also say that I haven't, having gone to a school that had an international affairs division for graduate school, I have a number of friends in the Foreign Service. And, I mean, it's beyond nobody being happy. I mean, I think a lot of people right now, there are a lot of people with 20, 30 years of institutional knowledge are considering alternative careers, at least while he's in control of things. So I think this is the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right.
Is true.
I think you're right. I mean, I think it's, I think we may see that in, I mean, you got to feel for a lot of these people because they have this horrible dilemma, frankly, that is, I imagine a lot of people are like, I don't want to work here anymore because it's going to be a nightmare. On the other hand, they're struggling with the idea of like, if I leave, I'm leaving it to I'm leaving
to God knows what.
To God knows what. People work at these agencies and in these departments because they believe in their mission, and I imagine think that the mission of these departments is crucial for our society. And
I mean, you couldn't have hit the nail more on the head. I mean, I had a conversation like that with a good friend of mine just the other day. That's exactly like that, because he's struggling with that right now. What to do? And it's the same exact thing, which is, I'm not going to carry out some of this idiocy, but if I'm not here, then what happens? Which knuckle dragger do they stick in here?
Right.
I mean, it puts a lot of people in an incredibly difficult position. but I expect to see a lot more of it. I just, obviously, with the foreign policy stuff, it's always even more worrisome because of the stakes are bigger. But you'll see it in domestic departments, I'm sure, too, with just all, big sort of groups of people leaving because, these guys aren't here to build anything. They're here to tear everything down.
Right.
Not many people want to be around for that. Whatever. It's a mess. There's just so many pressure points here. I don't expect perfect unified leadership from Democrats in the Senate, but I expect more than what we're seeing right now.
Well, certainly.
Let's put it that way.
Certainly, it helps if folks contact their senators and their representatives. And apparently, everything that I'm reading now, people are saying call. Emailing is fine, but calling is huge. Yeah.
Yep. The things that change, that are able to change things. I mean, it's not to say you email, put up Facebook posts. I'm not, tweet stuff out at them. I'm not telling people not to do that because that's all a part of it, and it's important. But having known people, who work on the Hill and everything, there's just nothing like calling and showing up. Those are your two best ways to make sure that they hear you, and that maybe the press pays attention and that things get done. And
it's also not a coincidence that involves more commitment on the individual's part, because that's the way the algorithm goes.
But do it, folks. I've done it many times. It's fun calling in and having a nice conversation with Mitch McConnell's office. I can't tell you. You can turn it into a game, frankly.
Well, back in the day, during the Air America days, I would call some Senate offices and, ask, I guess it was Rick Santorum about all the, because at one point he was talking about all the sluts in Boston, so I wanted a list. We have that.
Did he
call.
Provide that?
I didn't get to speak to the senator. It was weird.
Wasn't that his reason, right? For the reason why the molestation scandal or something? Because there's so many sluts in Boston that clearly that had convinced priests to molest kids.
Yeah, maybe we'll put out a couple of those calls. I remember calling Joe Lieberman's office, and the guy going like, "I know who this is." The guy working. I'm like, "You do?" And he goes, "Yeah, I listened to your radio show. We're on the same team."
He's probably listening
and I'm
while
like,
you did it.
He goes, "We're on the same team." And I go, "Buddy, if you think we're on the same team, you're not listening to my radio show."
Is there any reason that you can think of that you couldn't, let's say, bring some of that back to the current show?
No, I mean we can try. I think we will see. Probably that's probably a good idea. Do a little bit of.
All I ask is at least once that I be able to be on the line here with you.
Oh no, I don't do it live. I don't do it live because
okay.
usually what happens is you got to tell them that you're making it for air. But I find if you say it really quickly and just keep going through. They just, I don't know, people don't, they don't hang up more often. There's times that they do.
It is amazing how people will just stay on the line with you.
Yep.
Like, they just won't hang up.
Well, there's also a certain amount of pressure in these offices, right? I mean, they don't want to be, nobody wants to be the staffer who was rude. And
right.
So, and folks, when you call in, you should also not be rude. I mean,
absolutely.
And
be nice.
Don't do
nicely tell them that they're wrong. Nicely tell them they're making a mistake. Nicely tell them about a personal anecdote, somebody who's being hurt by something that their boss is contemplating doing. Do it that way. If you just call and you say F you, you're not going to get anywhere.
Right. And so.
Also, I'd be careful about actually going there for some people.
What?
To the office? Cliff suggested that.
Oh, no, you go to town meetings.
Oh, okay.
When the representatives has meetings where they visit people, you go. You can call the office, find out when is the congressman or congresswoman or senator, when are they meeting with constituents, and you get the date.
Right, because the thing is, they have to still keep trying to do that. They want to put a face on that they're representing people. So what you do is you find out where it is. For example, my district here, we're gerrymandered to hell. So we've got this right-wing, just nothing burger, Brad Wenstrup, who just votes for whatever they tell him to vote for. And he had a coffee thing, and the place was overrun. And 90% of the questions were to ask him. People were very polite about it. But it would go to them, and they'd say, well, why are you trying to take our health care away? Or why are you trying to, guess what ended up happening? It was all over our TV news.
Yeah.
These are things that will make their lives harder. People forget how much of politics, how many of these guys are incredibly lazy. They work like 3 days a week, right? They expect everybody else in the country to work hard. They don't. And if you can make their lives just somewhat more difficult, then sometimes that works. You may convince some of them to not run for Congress again.
Everybody knows this at their own job anyways, right? I mean,
Right.
it's the exact same thing. Like, I'm going to follow the path of least resistance when I can. And
That's right.
That's what people do. So, all right, Cliff. Well, I'm glad
Always a pleasure,
I'm
folks.
glad we figured this out.
Yeah, we got
and
the whole world figured out now.
hopefully-
Folks, it should all be done by next week.
Hopefully, Trump has not launched the nukes during this conversation.
Well,
But,
maybe we should end every week by wishing each other well.
Yes.
In case I don't talk to any of you or see any of you ever again, I'd like to wish you all well and, thank you for your support and listening and just being there.
Oh, and let me remind people that you are launching a podcast of your own. It is
true.
called Unprecedented and Bigly, and people can go and help make that a reality by going to your GoFundMe page. People can just Google Cliff Schecter GoFundMe, and that's the way that I get there. So people, please.
Just about 40% of the way there, guys. We're getting there.
I love
I
it.
want to start this thing, so any help you can give would be awesome. And if we're not nuked by next week, I'll give you an update then.
All right, great. Thanks, Cliff. Talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Boop boop. What did you? Are you freaking out now? Yeah. No, he wasn't serious about the nuking. That's probably not going to be until late February.
Not yet. Yeah.
Oh no, I took my headphone off for a second, and then I
alright.
wondered why we were never going to see him again.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. I
Well,
mean,
if
we've been. I
he
haven't
gets
looked
nuked,
at the
then-
news in an hour and a half. God knows what could have happened. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back. Yes?
Before the break, I
Kelly?
would just like to encourage everyone.
Oh, we got a Jim Reefer Cake song too. Okay. Well,
I would just like to encourage everyone to try out the super chat on our YouTube channel.
is that a real thing? Super chat.
Yeah, no, it's being beta tested by YouTube. We're one of only 6 channels that has it right now, and you can donate money to us. People have asked if we get a big cut of it, and we do. And
Do we get a big cut of it?
yeah,
Oh, all right.
and you can if you donate $5 to us, then your your comment gets posted to the top.
So it's like Citizens United, basically. If you have more money, you get a louder voice in the chat.
Just how it
I don't
should
know
be.
how much I like it.
Right, but also you are contributing to you're supporting us, which we're not evil or anything. So
And you are you going to start reading one of those? Is that what the whole deal was?
yeah, we're
All right, now I
we're
get
still
it.
like working out exactly.
But I think we had like a $20 one yesterday or something.
We've
so
actually-
we should
Really?
mention those.
We should
gotten
we should dip that one in amber.
I know.
All right. Well, in the fun half, we'll read off some of the super chats. But in the meantime, we have a song from Jimmy Reefer Cake as we will load up the phone, and I'll get Isabel on the phone. What is the song?
Home of the Deranged.
Home of the Deranged.
Now, Jimmy told me since I was a hypocrite, I could put my songs on his website at allhypocrisy.com. So here we go. I'm going to try, because I come honest with my hypocrisy. So here's my first song called Home of the Deranged. And I don't think it's wrong to be deranged. It's a different kind of thinking. Oh, give me a home where the white man can roam, where the dark folk have all been chased away, where seldom is heard a bipartisan word, and the Tea Party Republicans reign. Home of the deranged, where the winners are Trump and LePage, where seldom is heard a bisexual word, and the bathrooms will be cleansed of all the gays. Young white women at night, once with their legs crossed tight, till G-Money, shifty and smoothly came to town. Now they've all gone insane on heroin and cocaine. That's why all your grandchildren are brown. Come on, sing it with me. Home of the deranged, where the winners are Trump and LePage, where seldom is heard a bisexual word, and the bathrooms are cleansed. Yes, the bathrooms are cleansed. Oh, the bathrooms are cleansed of the gay.
Wow, there's Jimmy Reefer Cake, home of the deranged. Yeah, it was certainly captures the moment in many senses. Some of the lyrics I couldn't quite at, but I'll tell you what Jimmy Reefer Cake song, the lyrics I can understand. It is this one.
Today is Casual Friday. Let us welcome Isabel Gillies to the show. She's going to recommend a movie or two to watch on Netflix. It's the only way I know. Listen to the picks from Isabel. IsabelGillies.com.
I totally get that song. That song is completely straightforward. Isabel.
Aloha. I have a quick question. Is Jimmy
Why?
Reefer Cake from Maine?
Yes.
Oh,
That's why he's
I didn't know
so
that.
Lepaggio-centric.
that's right. I just tuned into that on that song.
There you go.
Page is the worst.
The worst.
Woo!
And your folks live up there, right?
Yeah. You know what their sign was at the march in Augusta? It was it was either prepare or
No me gusta?
No, it was something it was like ready ready yourself for I have to look at the picture. In fact, I'll do that right now so I get it right because it was good.
Now, did you go down
Dad
to
was
D.C.?
so proud of it. He was like, you know what ours was? It wasn't about Trump. It was build for 2018-2020. That was their sign.
All right.
Because he's like, we got to get LePage out of there. He's like, I don't want to talk about what's happening now. I want to talk about 2018, 2020. We've got to mobilize.
Yeah, that's good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely important.
Yeah.
Now, did you go down to D.C.?
We sure did. Went down to D.C.
And the whole family?
No, only our youngest, the 12-year-old, went, and I went.
What do you do? Are you
bus.
going through? You keep going in and out of like some type of old screen porch somewhere?
I was going in and out of a door, and it was a little squeaky.
Yeah, what's going on? Are you? It's like one of those like screen door porches. Am I talking to you like in some?
We need
you at
to
a
get
kennel?
the WD-40 out.
All right, so you went down there with the youngest.
So we went down. We got a bus, a group of us, and there were 36 seats on the bus. So we hashtagged ourselves 36 strong.
Okay, I like it.
And I was in charge of the food, and my friend Katie was in charge of like everything else.
Wait, you were in charge of food for 36 people?
Well, I was in charge of the breakfast. It was there
Sounds
were
like a
three
nice-
of us that were organizing it. I was I'd say I was the third wheel organizer. So
Okay.
Katie was the big organizer, and then my other friend Allie, and then I was. So I don't want to take a lot of credit, but I did organize breakfast because we left at 5.
I see. Okay.
morning.
Right. And what
We thought
what did you have for breakfast?
egg sandwiches
All right. Very nice.
and bagels, So we went down, and I went with Thomas, which was a wonderful thing. It was wonderful. It was an amazing experience. We couldn't even get on the mall.
Yes. Nikki and Mila had the same experience. They couldn't even get to where the rally was. There were so many people.
We saw the rally, but we couldn't get to the. Then when we left the rally area, we couldn't get to the mall. And I kept saying to Thomas, I was like, this isn't. When you march, it's like usually you're on the mall, and we've been there before, but it's empty, so it's so hard to picture when it's. Because it was like being on the most crowded subway for 5 hours.
Right.
Standing up, you know how you couldn't fall down because there were people
Yep.
right next to you for so long. And then.
How did he do with it?
He was fantastic.
Every report I've heard of a kid going down there, everybody has been like, the kid was as good as I've ever experienced. Like, I think Mila had like
actually
5
felt
minutes.
better.
Yeah.
With him there, he's taller than me. So I felt safer and better and like more, on it with him there. And he was just, his sign said "Power to the Peaceful," and he chose it himself. And he marched stoically. I was so proud of him, and so proud that to be able to take him, and so he could see it, and so proud of everyone around us. And so it was just, and all the discussion around the march was rich and on point, and it was just I loved hearing that we kept calling out the numbers of all the different cities and how many people were in every different city. We could get, whatever from Twitter, and it was quite amazing. Really.
And headed back that night. And
headed back that night.
So now what?
So now, we decided that our bus decided to. I'm just going to do the squeaky door one more time. Well, I was just interested in listening to Cliff because I was making calls, and he said, and you said that you thought it was fun calling these offices. I get very nervous when I'm about to call and feel like I better really make my point. Like I called about DeVos a lot, and I got very nervous that I wasn't going to say the right thing, or I wasn't going to say a strong enough thing, or a clear enough message. Does anybody else have that experience?
I have a solution for you. There's something called 5calls.org that has scripts and everything on a whole bunch of different issues that I've been telling people to go to, and that way it's just kind of like phone banking. You don't have to even worry about it.
Oh, that is good because I tried to even write down my own little script.
Well, it's good to use a derivation of, but I mean, look, the bottom line is they're not. I mean, and it's been, 30 years more since I was working. I was an intern at one of these congressional offices. And so I would take a lot of those calls, and they do have an algorithm. Every time you call, you're put into a ledger, and the only distinction, and I don't know if we would make it with calls, but we certainly would with letters. The only distinction we made was, is this a formalized letter or an individual letter? So try and make it as like your own as possible. Because
I could see how that would make sense, because then you don't discount it as like, oh, this is just a
right. I mean, it the whole thing is they're trying to measure in some fashion how much real energy is out there, and every touch they have with the public represents that many more people. And so if it's a an email, it may represent 4 people. If it's a phone call, it may represent 30 people.
I see.
And so they have an algorithm. I don't know what it is at this point, but at the time we did. I mean, that, I was told, I wasn't in charge of any of that. I was just the lackey in the corner. My
Taking
job.
the calls. But let me ask you then a follow-up question. If all these governors and senators and Congress people need to hear from their constituents, and there has been a worldwide march that had millions of people in it, is that not counted in some way? Can't they be like, oh, well, clearly these things aren't going to roll with all these people? Or does it have to be really, really
It's specific. It's specific. I mean, none of them, broadly speaking, the Republicans do this a little more than the Democrats, but none of them think beyond their own fortunes. And none of them think beyond 5 feet in front of them in terms of their own fortunes. So, they're not taking the long view.
That's why, sorry to interrupt you, but that is why, because with all these, frankly, horrors that have come out in the last 3 days, why aren't people quitting? Why don't you see, why isn't his kids, why don't people working at the banks around him say, you know what, I actually quit? Why don't we see droves of people quitting? I just heard about someone who joined the administration. I don't understand. I can't understand it. I can't, especially with the EPA stuff. Is it really just your bank account? Because the scientists are saying to us so clearly.
But who's gonna quit? I mean, the thing is that some of those scientists are probably sitting there going, Cliff and I were talking about that. If you're a scientist at the EPA, you got to be saying to yourself, this is going to be a nightmare. I don't want to be here. But at the same time, you got to be saying, like, if I'm not here,
what's going to happen?
Yeah, what's going to happen? I could be here and I might be able to, in 6 months, tell the world that, hey, look, these guys are suppressing the lead levels in Flint or whatever it is.
Right, which they will.
Here's
the other thing, and I'll get it back to the family. With the whole Muslim ban and all the immigration stuff, friends of mine are getting so ripped apart on Twitter for their the more famous they are, the more they get just brutalized on Twitter. So
for their Islamophobic comments?
No, for speaking out. Okay, what are you talking about?
I was being facetious.
I
They're
know,
getting brutalized by Trump supporters.
Yes, and really bad. And a friend of mine who I guess it's on. I can say because I just read about it. Got Deborah Messing did a solidarity selfie for I'm with the immigration. There was a sort of a movement. It was like a online march. Did you see that?
I didn't, but continue.
Anyway, someone said she should be her genitals should be mutilated. I mean, it's like really. So I'm kind of getting freaked about people tweeting and.
Well, you know what the genitals mutilated thing is about. You know why that is, right? Because it both attacks a woman for being a woman, and then also they imply that they are being protective of women against Muslims because they. Because Sam Harris and his acolytes and all the lunatics, are paint Muslims with a rather broad brush and are quite convinced that only female genitalia, the only genital mutilation happens in Muslim countries.
In Muslim countries. Well, it's just heartbreakingly sad that you can't say, I stand with refugees and be in danger of someone saying that your genitals should be mutilated.
Here's the thing. the reason why it's necessary for people like her and others to say that is because of that is the reaction they're going to get, right? Like, I mean, if you could come out and say, I stand in solidarity with these people and no one would attack you, there wouldn't be as compelling and urgent need for that solidarity. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, that
right.
is
So you just have to keep going.
that is
resisting. That's
proof of how important it is. Because
right. That's a good point.
I mean,
Yeah, you can't even be on a podcast or a YouTube show without people saying you should kill yourself sometimes.
Right.
So,
It's
yeah, so people like Deborah Messing and everyone else.
but I think it's good. I'm really
putting it out there.
encouraged by how much more it seems to me, and I am less, I think, sort of aware of like who celebrities are today, frankly. But I'm very encouraged at the number of people who are speaking out. I mean, you know, I was just telling this to Matt that when I was at Air America in 2004, you know, many people would accuse me of having Bush derangement syndrome because, you know, it was the people who were in opposition were in the minority, really, in many respects, at least in terms of like what the ratings were. And now if someone says like, you've got Trump derangement syndrome, that actually sounds like a disease you could catch. Like, you know, if you got bit by a raccoon or something, that you could actually be as crazy as him.
Rihanna actually went to the Trump Tower protest, which Rihanna is
the other night. 2 nights ago.
See, that's what I mean. I had
No, like
no
a week
idea
ago.
who Rihanna is.
Okay, Rihanna is extremely famous, and
She's so famous.
yeah, I mean, she had bodyguards and
Singer?
stuff, but she was just dressed
Singer.
down.
Did
Yeah,
you see her?
she's a singer.
Okay.
Yeah, is that her?
Yeah. I don't know, but she had bodyguards, but she dressed down and put a ball cap on and was just protesting with everyone else.
That's what I do.
So
I dress down.
I
and
saw
put
Katy
a-
Perry.
I know who Katy Perry is. I mean, that's because of
I
Mila.
saw her. I saw her, and so did Thomas. But Thomas was not as.
Was
Thomas
it?
Also
Was it your fight song? Isn't that
I
one of
would
Katy
have
Perry's
sung
songs?
the fight song with her, but yeah, she does the fight song.
I just know
This
that.
is my
Yeah.
fight song. Yeah, she.
So, and
So I guess family. I was just about to say something about the family. I don't know. I lost it. Oh, I know what I was going to say. We are once again, you know, we kind of drifted away from being, fearful in the last 8 years, even though maybe we should have been. But we're having a family meeting about, okay, you know, my kid goes to school near Times Square. So yesterday I was like, all right, listen, which way do you run? You know, if there's a big disaster, you know, where do you run? He was like, to the river. I was like, right, okay, that's right. I mean, we're like in that mode because how on earth do you say all the things that you say as president and not expect that there was going to be we're going to get smacked for it.
I mean, it's not.
And New York is going to get smacked for it because that's where his family is. That's where he's from. That's where this, you know, it's a financial center and a center of all liberalism. And he's from here, and his kid is here, and they're going to. I actually am not. You know, I was laughing with my friend that we had, you know, rubber boats under our beds, but really.
Well, I mean, it's not irrational to assume that that there are going to be people out there who are going to attempt to, you know, test and goad Donald Trump into some type of war. And it's not, I mean, you can get the guy to almost like, you can't quite get him to invade a country based on a tweet, but I'm also not convinced that the right tweet has landed yet on his doorstep, that to really test that scenario out. But I mean, I share that same, you know, sense that there is the world. I mean, look, and I don't know how accurate the doomsday clock is, but those folks, you know, put it closer to high noon essentially because, Donald Trump makes the world a lot less stable in many respects. And frankly, it's not clear to me that his chief advisor isn't the agenda. But all right, so let me ask you this: what now? You are really plugged into the literati, Isabel. I mean, I don't think anybody has any doubt about that. What are they saying? What conversations are you hearing from some of the top reporters in the country as to what they're going to do, how they're going to try and cover this stuff?
Well, I hear a lot of the same kind of things that we're saying. A lot of like, I can't believe this is happening. A lot of that. And I haven't heard like specifically how they're going to deal with, the media shutting its mouth. But I know that a lot of money is being directed towards places like ProPublica and the organization to protect journalism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spacing what the name is right now. And galvanizing, I think. But I don't know exactly how they're dealing with covering. Like, I know Michael Grimbaum had an article today, and he's a great reporter at the New York Times, and he's just like a guy like us. He's younger than us. But he's just I sort of don't know how. It's an interesting question how those journalists are. It's like a puzzle. Like, how am I going to get? But one more than that, who's reading it? Who's listening? Who is listening to all of the? Who said that the other day? Some other journalist said, they're all just listening to the state TV Fox. They're not even. You could put as many things as you want on the cover of the New York Times, and no one's reading it.
Weird. Yeah, I know that's true. But I mean, the people who are reading it, I think are, the idea is, right, is the people who are reading it are going out and I guess somebody's trying to call me. It's weird.
Who's trying to call you?
I don't know, but I'm going to block them.
John
so
Miller?
I don't know who it was. John Woo? Who?
John
a
Miller?
lot of people are wrong.
Sam, it's John
too.
Miller. I'm not crazy. I mean, Mr. Trump's not crazy. Everybody knows that.
But look at David Muir. The other night, you told me to watch that, and I watched it in its entirety last night.
It's insane, right?
Everyone just looks kind of
shell-shocked.
Like they don't know what to do.
I mean, I think at one point people are going to figure it out, or it's just going to be, because nobody ever contemplated the idea that a full-on total lunatic could be the president. Everybody just assumes it's just people with some type of disorder and megalomania. I mean, that's run-of-the-mill, of course. Those are the type of people that you get as leaders. But, the full-on mad king, right? I mean, this is
there's a very top journalist who said he's not going to do, said personally to us, he's not going to do the things that you think that we all think he's going to do. He's going to get in office and actually not do them. So that was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely
this week
wrong.
Proves that's wrong.
Yes, that to me just the idea that people thought that he's actually a different guy. I just don't think that's the case. I mean, you see,
I kind of was hoping that was true, but then look at this DeVos. Betsy DeVos puts me over the edge more than almost anybody in this whole clown show. Did you watch her hearings?
Of course.
I've been tweeting about it like crazy. I can't take it. And when do we find out if she gets in? If she gets in,
Well, here's the thing though, Isabel. Ted Cruz would have appointed Betsy DeVos. Betsy DeVos, 90% of these people are basically exactly who any other Republican president would pick, because the truth is that
that's probably.
I don't think
right.
Donald
We're
Trump
not
was
used to
like,
it.
I've got a whole dossier of people I've wanted to staff the government for years that I've been researching. No,
I've
it's
been
Mike Pence
researching
puts a couple of names on the table, and he goes, "Oh, she's a billionaire. Bingo."
Go ahead.
And
That's
so
right. That's right.
That's
There's no careful selection here.
Well, it's not a question of careful selection. The point is that this is the Republican Party. I mean, that's the one thing that I sort of lament a little bit is that there's this sense that there's a conflation between what is Trump and what, or I should say, a confusion between that manifests itself in the sense that what is Trump is not Republican. Like the parts of Trump that are unique are the fact that he's staffing much of his government with total incompetence, that he's a narcissist who is determined to prove that there was more people at his inauguration than the black guys. That's pure Trump. But everything that we're seeing on the governmental side is republicanism. And that's what I think, that's what I get a little frustrated about right now. That's what I've been getting frustrated about over the past, I don't know, 24 hours, just because I feel like I should change it up.
Here's the thing. Here's another thing that someone said to me that I thought was sort of interesting, that these people were there, just like you're saying, right? On the governmental side, these people were there, like messing it up, just under the surface, just sabotaging anything that Obama did, anything that, any movement towards health care or, getting immigration figured out. They would just spoil it. So now they're in office, and they're not going to be messing up the agenda. Well, they are messing up the agendas, but the initiatives that people want to make can be made in the future, perhaps, because they are in there and like flying their freak flags, and everybody's going to see them out in the open. See what I'm saying? Am I being clear or not really?
I'm not 100% sure what you're saying. I mean, part of it is just their agenda is the same. We want to prevent government from serving the broad spectrum of people.
Right.
And that's where the consistency is. So, I mean, tell your friends. What movie should we watch this weekend?
Well, I have TV, movie, and book.
Wow.
Because
it's going to be a busy weekend.
Yeah. Well, because you might want to just pick your poison.
All hands on deck, indeed.
If you're feeling that you need to really immerse yourself in something that's longer than 2 hours, so we're talking about a book. If you have...
Well, I thought you were about to suggest Shoah as a way of cheering people up.
I'm not. I love an epic.
Right. I know, of course.
I love all those big epic. Okay. But no. I read All the Light We Cannot See.
All the light we cannot see. Oh, you just piqued Matt Leck's interest. So, I mean, if you can if you can pique Matt Leck's interest on something,
that's on my list. That sounds like a good book.
Dudesses, it is so beautiful, and it's about the Second World War.
All the Light We Cannot See?
Yeah, and it is, won the Pulitzer Prize. And it's been around for a while. I mean, not like...
I've never even heard of it.
You've never even heard of it. So it's a huge, huge bestseller.
I didn't know who Rihanna was, so I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's right. You don't know who Rihanna. It's by Anthony Doerr, Doerr. Is that how you do
that name sounds familiar to me, but yeah, okay.
And it came out in 2014, and it is beautiful. It happens to be the same editor that I had for my first book, and weirdly I could kind of feel her editing. It's so beautiful and it's so good, and it is a lot. It's because it's about a dictator, right? Because we're in we're in France, but it's during the Second World War. So if you want to keep your mind, your mind can't really leave where we are politically right now, but you want to escape and get some historic reference and literary kind of slant, go do yourself a favor, buy the book, and sink into it. It's long. It's like a 400, 500-page book. So, but I would read it 4 hours at a time over
Okay.
Christmas.
All the light.
Beautiful.
You
All the
cannot-
light we cannot see.
We
And if
cannot
that's
see.
not the greatest title you ever heard, I don't know. And they're also wonderful if you're interested in the natural world. It's so good. Oh, I hope if anybody does read it or starts, please tweet me and we can discuss.
All right. So there's the book.
Then I'll go over to the TV, to Netflix and PBS, which you can both get.
Okay.
And I will go and recommend both The Crown.
The Crown.
Which is about Elizabeth II.
I've been
Okay.
enjoying that as
That-
well. I'm
Isn't
only
it
about 4
good?
episodes in. Yes, I really like it.
Okay.
It's
The Crown.
so good. And Victoria.
Victoria. Is that
Which is
also
about Queen Victoria. So
okay.
I'm doing a double queen.
The Crown?
And
Victoria?
Here's what's fun about that. This isn't I feel that there's a lot, just reading Twitter and watching the news and reading the newspapers and listening to podcasts and stuff gets your blood boiling so hard that it's probably not good for you.
Yeah.
And there's something about this it's also historic, it's lilting, the costumes are beautiful, they're calm.
Mm-hmm.
It's about ruling, but it's calm.
Okay.
There's a little romance. And it's just kind of like, okay, and there's it's a series. So this is a break. It's like a break from what's happening, but still connected in some way. Because you don't just want to totally, disconnect. Because you can't. I can't. I don't know. I can't unplug, but I'm trying to a little bit.
Yes. Well,
And then movie.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the movie's in the real theater. Can I say it?
yeah, you can say it.
Lion.
What? Never even heard of it.
Lion.
Lion. Okay.
Lion. It's a movie with Dev Patel and Nicole Kidman, and it's about a little boy who gets lost in India, and then he gets
A lion saves him?
no.
Okay. He gets eaten by a
It
lion.
is so beautiful, and my oldest kid yesterday had his last exam, his first real exams, and that's another thing. This DeVos, 90% of the children in the United States are educated in public schools.
Yeah, she doesn't like public schools.
Yeah, that's like saying, "Oh, I don't like water," which I guess they're saying too, or "I don't like."
Well, they're just saying that
people
we should
eating.
divert. We don't like public access to water. That's all.
We don't like We don't like public transportation.
Mm,
So
they say that.
It's just limousines for people, I guess.
Well,
But that's what it's.
that's
anyway,
what
my kid goes to public
republicanism
school.
is, Isabel. That's what republicanism is.
Well,
I
I
mean,
hate Republicans.
Okay, good. I'm glad we got there. That's all I've been waiting for.
I can't stand it that people. It's the same thing as gay marriage. What does it matter to you? What does it matter to you? So you don't have to. So send your kid to a private school if you make so much money you can do that.
Well,
Go for it.
for her, it's a lot of there's a huge amount of Jesus juice in this.
Oh,
she
goodness
believes
gracious.
she believes that that God needs public money.
Charter schools?
No, she's really. I think the charter schools for her are a bank shot. I think her primary thing is vouchers for parochial schools. But I think she buys into the charter schools because that begins to diminish the power of public schools too.
She
and,
wants
and
to
then
create
you can get religion in there.
a kingdom of God. She thinks the kingdom of God will be created by using the school system. So
get the
I will
to-
say this. The kingdom of God's not going to be created unless you use the school system. So she may be right in that respect. I don't know if the kingdom of God's going to come, but if it is, you're definitely going to need the schools. Unless you can do some, one hell of a magic trick at the beginning of this whole thing and just float up with that. You leave your shoes on the Mount Zion or whatever it will be.
It's like we went from, the 10 weeks ago or right before election, everything being like, oh, this is kind of, the world. Like, how are we going to figure it out? It's a puzzle. Everybody's shifting around. Everybody's got to figure out carefully where they're going to put their piece so that we can all kind of make the puzzle together. To to total chaos. I mean, is there going to be a revolution? It's chaos. I feel like this is insanity.
Yeah.
Who doesn't feel like it's insane? That's what I want on the phone. I want someone who's like, what are you talking about? I've never felt so safe in my life.
We could probably get a call like that. That's not inconceivable.
And then what would we say? Let's pretend. Hi, I don't know what you're talking about. I feel very safe.
Well, you're insane. Click.
It's like it's one thing. It's like it's a wall. Okay, you're a wall person, Republican. All right, well, but you got to agree that the environment is kind of important. No.
Yeah.
Like, how are they across the board?
That's Chinese hoax. Chinese hoax. Nice try, Isabel.
What?
Nice try to get me on a. Nice try. Nice try. Isabel.
No, it's a bad note to end on.
No, it isn't. It's just basically the notes that we have right now. They're going to get better.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe.
What could make it better? That people got on the phone, called, and then the people in power said, "All right, you know what? We're hearing the people," and it really moves, and democracy works. That would be good, right?
That could happen. Also, there's like cholesterol, which builds up in different people's arteries, and maybe it strikes them. You know, one never knows. Just saying, anything could happen. So next week, and next time we talk, Isabel, we could be talking about what a shame. Boy, it's very awkward to watch the president have a stroke, or who knows? I mean, who knows? Who knows? What?
Only mention stuff like that like one time at
I
most
can't help it. That's just what occurs to me when I see.
I know you can't do that because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tweet a picture of myself with the book All the Light We Cannot See, because it is humanity and the arts and writing and that kind of input into the world might help in some way. So I'm going to tweet that so people can see what the cover is, because it's a very beautiful cover, and a lot of times I judge a book by their cover.
Read a book. Well, that's certainly what the editors. It's my experience with the publishers. That's the only thing they care about. Isabel,
cover?
Yep, and your platform. Isabel Gillies, always a pleasure.
I'm taking a selfie right now on the phone so everybody can know.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, Isabel. Hang in there. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Love everybody. Bye. Bye.
Isabel Gillies, ladies and gentlemen. Follow her on Twitter. Look at her picture. All right, we're going to take a break, head into the fun half of the program. We got a bunch of sound to cover. And we have the source of of Donald Trump's belief that there are 3 to 4 million votes that are illegal. He cited that the other day. We have more of that ABC interview with President-elect Donald Trump, as he outlines what his vision is going to be for an American revolution. This is where he really points out that the photos show that there was a lot of people at his inauguration. And then we have sound of Mr. Trump with Sean Hannity in the Oval Office. It all just sounds like a joke. In the real Oval Office, not in Beck's fake facsimile of the Oval Office.
Trump should send the feds in to go break that down. Actually,
That would be awesome. More people talking about Donald Trump being insane, and we got other stuff. All right, folks, don't forget, it is your membership that makes this show possible. Become a member today at jointhemajority.report.com. We'll be right back with the fun half. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. From the IM, Rick Fain. From the Daily Show, we learned that in South Africa, 45 is slang for a penis, and Lawrence Fishburne will only refer to the Donald as 45. Cuck the police. Super IM. Trump's first meeting with a world leader today. His team confused UK Prime Minister Theresa May with a porn star. Wouldn't let the British press in because of their crazy backwards birth dates. CBW. In response to the IAMR yesterday, I too thought Rogue One was great, not perfect, but I think exactly the movie I needed post-election. Don't know. That guy hated it. Glad you liked it, Sam. It might be just me, but the scene where the rebellion learns the Empire has been planet-destroying weapon, they immediately start arguing amongst themselves about the best way to give up, really reminded me of the Democrats and the left right now. I love Sarah Palin. I'm not a man of wealth, so maybe I don't understand, but risking severe social unrest with Trump for tax cuts doesn't seem worth it. CC Prof, I wonder if the Brown-Warren vote strategy to seem reasonable. Yes, I think so. Maybe. That is, if every Dem votes against every nominee, those votes will easily be discounted as a cabal, making the nay vote illegitimate. Perhaps they believe by providing some yay votes, they make it possible for some Republicans to vote nay on a few of the especially vile candidates. I do think that they probably think that, but I think that's a mistake. By the way, I'm a member who listens to Always the podcast. I got to listen live today, and I had to listen to that damn whiny song. I had no idea how much the quality of my life had improved until I looked back on my history with that song. Bertold Meck, we're doing book recs now. About a year ago, I read Corey Robbins' Reactionary Mind and Hofstadter's Paranoid Style because I felt like I saw some scary shit in the Trump campaign. Turns out it was much worse than I was preparing for, which means that fiction can provide the moral instruction that history cannot. I just got Plot Against America by Roth. Can't Happen Here by Lewis, The Resistible Rise of Toro Yue by Brecht. And it seems like most people are aware of the first two, but not the latter. I'm not aware. I wasn't aware of the latter, but I'm very excited to see Brecht's take on Hitler's rise. Who better to answer questions about the rise of Nazism than a dude from the Frankfurt School, after all? Art. Aren't most people who want abortion banned trying to impose their religious beliefs about when a fetus becomes a person on society as a whole? Isn't this anti-American Christo-Talibism? Why isn't the issue framed this way? I agree. Movie recommendation, The Madness of King George, says Rusticus. Colin Doucette, what do you guys think about Mel Gibson getting nominated for Best Director for Hacksaw Ridge or the Oscars noms in general? To be honest with you, I wasn't even aware that they had happened yet. Did the Oscar nominations come out?
Yeah, they came out.
All right, we got to get Chris Rosen on.
Well, oh yeah. Well, Mel Gibson is anti-Semitic, but I would.
But in a good way.
No, there's no good way.
Well, he was accurate with a lot of stuff.
I would just like to also point out that there are many, many wife beaters and women especially this year, a person who has molested several of his staff and co-stars and done weird drunken things, and they get nominated for things and nobody ever brings it up. For instance, Sean Penn. So, I don't know.
Is it great yet? I tried to sign up for the newsletter Wednesday and haven't received confirmation email yet. Is there a lag or should I try again? Yes. Yeah, use the one on the top, right? The one on the column, not in the bottom. Yeah, I got to fix that. Will you remind me? Chris Lepaco. I've been thinking a lot about the moral dilemma that progressives face when trying to decide if they should punch a Nazi. And last night I had a moment of clarity, but we shouldn't punch people. But one wonders if Nazis are even people at all or just soulless golem. Also, I think America has gone soft. In the old days, you would know what would happen like a guy with Spencer in a place like America. He'd be carried away on a stretcher, folks. It's true. And Donald Trump drinks urine. Have a good weekend. Bare Hands found an interesting tactic debating at Trump supporters on Twitter. Accused them of already decided Trump is always right and such. They're subconsciously bending their reality to fit that. When they deny it, ask them to name one statement, action, or policy proposal Trump has made since entering the race they disagree with. Bullprogs. House Science Committee chair says it's best to get information directly from Trump. New CIA director says Jesus is the solution for the world. Bannon calls the press the opposition, and Conway says lifting sanctions is being considered with Putin and Trump meeting tomorrow. What's up?
I would like to read a couple of super chats.
Okay, let's hear some super chats.
For Tech69 said hashtag free Melania. Clifford Burns chatted super chat is a lie. Pete Morse donated. Dustin Evans donated. Asparagus free whores said money is speech. Give it up, cheap cucks. XOXO Sam, meaning she gives you hugs and kisses to you.
Okay.
C.
Assuming
Fredericks.
it's a woman.
Oh, yes. Good one, Matt.
He or she
He
gives
or
me
she.
hugs and kisses. That's
Right.
fine.
C. Fredericks said, this is a math chat. And Stephen Richter also donated on the super chat.
I like all of those. They're all good. All right, now, people are wondering, where did Donald Trump get this 3 to 4 million vote thing? Has he been doing research? Has he been pounding the pavement? Well, apparently, sometime in October, a man named Greg Phillips of an organization he started called Vote Stand announced this on Twitter. Now, of course, on Twitter, he claimed that there was 3 to 4 million illegal votes. They didn't all go to Hillary, according to this Greg Phillips at the time. Well, now, of course, he's being cited by Donald Trump in interviews as to where he got his facts. I don't think the implications he actually met with Greg Phillips. It's that he read his tweet. That was an assertion, not a study, just an assertion. So in other words, if you wanted to start an organization called, let's say, Vote Sit, and get on Twitter and say, actually, the number's 15 million illegal votes, maybe Donald Trump would cite you in interviews that are broadcast around the world. So who knows? But here's Chris Cuomo interviewing Greg Phillips to see, to get the details behind this assertion.
It's a very silly, simple circle that we're going in here right now. You say you can prove it. I say, okay,
Sure.
I trust you. You can prove it. Show me. You
We will.
say, I will, but you're not.
We will.
Can you give me an estimated date?
We believe that it will probably take another few months to get this done.
And yet, even though you need a few more months to get it done, you think you know the answer right now.
We're volunteers. We know we have the answer.
Even though you can't prove it, you think you know.
The number's actually bigger.
Well, whatever. You can say the number is whatever it is. You have to show it. One other question. You put this out in the beginning of November. The states didn't certify until after that. I think Vermont was one of the few ones that came out 4 days after you.
Sure.
So you couldn't have done it off certified voter returns because you wouldn't have had them. That was an impossibility of fact. So that means you must have based it on early voting returns. Is that a safe assumption?
In part.
Because you can't do it off the certified counts because you didn't have them when you put out the tweet.
But you, well, there's all sorts of ways, as you guys know about get out the vote, right? I mean, one of the ways that you do it is you have poll watchers there waiting to see who signs in.
That's not precise.
And whoever doesn't sign in, then you go get them.
That's not precise.
We are as precise as we need to be. More than 3 million non-citizens voted in this country in this election. We're prepared to prove it. We need a little more time. The president, should he choose to, can ask his attorney general and the Department of Homeland Security to make that match on a dime, make the decision. We don't have to do the work. You don't have to believe
you
me.
have to do the work.
You can believe the government.
You have to do it, Greg, because you can't say, I know this is true. Let's have them prove it.
We're doing it.
This is on you.
We're doing it as fast as we can.
Right, but you already said you had the answer. You understand what I'm saying?
We do.
But you understand that logically that doesn't go together. If I know the answer to something, it's because I've concluded my process of analysis, not because I'm in the middle of it.
Not necessarily. You can reach a conclusion and then still verify. You can still go back and
then
double
how do you know
check
that you're
and
right?
check. That's exactly what we're doing. We're going back
Then
and
shouldn't
seeing
you
that
have
we're right.
waited to say that you know for sure before you were sure about it?
The other side of it is, so I'm a tweet. I mean, people say lots of things. People said I was a Russian spy.
Who cares what they say? I only care about the facts.
Right.
And we have all these studies that have looked at all of these things.
If you care,
the professors that you put out there saying, no, this is who Trump is listening to, it's not us, they've been debunked by the guys who developed their data.
Wait, Chris, I didn't put any professor out there.
You said, I think Trump is referring to these two guys from George Mason University, those professors who put out a study. You're quoted as saying that.
No, I did not.
So somebody just put those words in your mouth?
Absolutely.
Oh. All right, well, that's another problem then, right?
Maybe.
All right. Will you let us know when you're going to tell everybody but us?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Greg, appreciate you having the conversation.
So I guess this clip doesn't really need any explanation. The guy has concluded, and in fact, he concluded over a month and a half ago, that there were 3 to 4 million, maybe more, he said, illegal voters, not registrations, illegal voters in this country. They just need several more months to prove it. So it must have been a hunch. He seems pretty sure of it. This is like, look, it's
faith.
Listen, you see this all the time on cop shows, right? Like, I know that guy did it. We just need to get the evidence. The only difference is that when they need to get the evidence, it's that they have evidence that establishes it, but it doesn't reach the subjective standards that are set in a court of law. In this instance, you could have models, I guess, that say, we have models that we've come up with, algorithms that show, but we just saw an election where we saw the failure of models. So this guy has information, but now there's also one other explanation. I want to be fair about this. It's possible this guy is talking to either an extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial source who has given concrete evidence, but of course he needs to protect them because they come from a different dimension or a different planet. And
you don't want to collapse the space-time continuum.
Well, there's all sorts of issues. You don't want to collapse space-time continuum, but also, let's be honest. Let's be honest. If people are getting upset about what the Russians did, the anger that would be directed at these extraterrestrials would be extreme. So protecting them does make some sense. So maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
If you can make Chris Cuomo look as good as he did in that segment, you're really stupid.
That's true. That's true. Chris Cuomo did look like Perry Mason there.
He's so smart.
Between him and David Muir, it's like these guys, it's like a couple follow-up questions that that he's going to mislead everyone.
The look on David Muir's face a few times, I was just like, for him to be having this much trouble in what is the biggest softball interview is really concerning.
David Muir, I've never seen this guy. He's the host. Is he host ABC Nightly News? He was looking at Donald Trump at this interview, this ABC interview. Like, this is just Star Trek reference. Maybe many people won't know, but like Captain Pike, who was the captain before Kirk, who was like completely immobile. But here is part of that ABC News interview. And apparently at that ABC News interview too, ABC didn't release this as a video, but Trump said that his standing ovation was bigger than Walter Payton's at the Super Bowl.
Peyton Manning's
at the Super Bowl. Okay. Well, that makes more sense. Well, it does a little bit. I guess did Peyton Manning like wave to the crowd and everybody, I don't know what happened. I don't know. Anyways, here is part of that ABC interview just to prove that he's not insane. Donald Trump dragged this guy, David Muir, to see some photos. And we got a funny there's a funny backstory to these photos, too. Here you go, folks. But let's hear Donald Trump explain what we're looking at.
The president then takes us through the West Wing to show us the photos they already have on the walls.
And these are some of the pictures that were taken. This is the swearing in and the first dance with Melania. Here's a picture of the event. Here's a picture of the crowd. Now, the audience was the biggest ever. But this crowd was massive. Look how far back it goes. This crowd was massive. And
Pause it.
I would actually...
This is amazing because I don't think I've seen this picture so clearly represent how empty the mall is. It just goes 1.5 sections deep, and then you can see, like, there's nobody. When Obama was there, during the 2009 inauguration, like, not just that white part, but then across the street, and then back and back. It's stunning. All right, let's see. We'll see if Muir argues with him about it. Here we go.
Also at Obama's, you couldn't even get on the mall. So there was overflow. Like I couldn't get there because I was late.
Back it goes. This crowd was massive. And I would actually take that camera and take your time if you want to know the truth.
I do want to ask you, Mr. President.
And Jared has been here and he's doing a great job.
And just before we leave, the president tells us he wants to show us just one more image.
One thing this shows is how far over they go here. Look how far this is. This goes all the way down here, all the way down. Nobody sees that. You don't see that in the pictures. But when you look at this tremendous sea of love, I call it a sea of love. It's really something special that all these people traveled here from all parts of the country, maybe the world, but all parts of the country. Hard for them to get here. Many of these people were the forgotten men and women, many of them.
Yes, they all came. Now, wow, how did they get those pictures so quick? Well, the Washington Post has now reported that on the morning after Donald Trump's inauguration, Donald Trump personally ordered the National Park Service Director, Michael T. Reynolds, on a personal phone call to produce additional photographs of the previous day's crowds on the National Mall, according to 3 individuals who have knowledge of the conversation. The president believed that they might prove the media had lied. And they had claimed that the attendance had been no better than average. Trump also expressed anger over a retweet sent from the agency's account, in which side-by-side photographs showed far fewer people at his swearing-in than had shown up to see Barack Obama's inauguration in 2009. And this is the best part. When they were asked, like, hey, how freaking insane is it that the president called the head on its day one, ladies and gentlemen. Remember how much we heard about day one? Day one, I'm going to do this, day one. It turns out on day one, he called the National Park Service Director, Michael Reynolds, to get photographs. And then they asked the White House Deputy Press Secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I think it's Huckabee's daughter, how insane is your president? She said, the call simply demonstrated that Trump's management style is to be, quote, so accessible and constantly in touch. He's not somebody who sits around and waits. He takes action and gets things done. That's one of the reasons why he's president today and Hillary Clinton isn't.
So people have been tweeting me this image. They're claiming that Trump has photoshopped his hand larger in it. I'm not sure because these aren't the exact same image, but that's what people are saying.
That's not the only thing that's different about it.
The color temperature is different, right?
It's just that's only like increasing the blacks, which the both of their jackets probably are black. But wait, zoom back out for a second.
Hands are so small.
His neck is different. Okay.
They're not the identical pictures.
What are they? Just seconds apart?
People are saying, and people are saying
not.
that the hand.
But they're not. They're not the same pictures. They're slightly. Obama's face is turned. They're one right after each other.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. I saw that photo on Twitter. I really want that changed.
Just one more thing, since we're just starting the super chat. We're not always going to announce it, but what I would assume is Cunty Locks has, it's fine, it's the fun half, has donated money for us, the three of us, to split since we showed up for work.
That's $5 for each of the people who bothered to show up to work today.
Oh, all right.
Nothing for
maybe
Michael.
somebody can send in some hangover cure for Michael. So 2 nights ago, Carl Bernstein was on CNN reporting that he's talking to a lot of Republican operatives, personnel, who are saying Donald Trump seems to be emotionally unstable. And, I mean, saying in a very polite, non-clinical way, there's a lot of people telling me that they think the president's insane. And then yesterday, Steve Bannon, who, and I'm seeing a lot of different pieces, and it's very hard to get a grasp on this, but there's a lot of different reports saying that Republicans are now worried because they thought Reince Priebus had the inside track with the administration, because basically he probably got more or less all of the department picks, cabinet picks that he wanted. They assumed that Trump was listening to Priebus, but it becomes clearer that Bannon has Trump's ear, and Bannon probably doesn't care about all these departments either. This is the deal that Bannon's probably making in his own mind. The Republican establishment gets to go full-on conservative on the policy, but I get the president to be the rogue president. And Bannon had this interview where he basically told the New York Times and the media, said to the New York Times that the media should shut the hell up, which is strange. And he's making that point of the media is the enemy. This is the oldest, not the oldest, but the long time, Rush Limbauhism, right? The drive-by media. Yeah, it's Spiro Agnew. But here's Bernstein now pressing the point about Donald Trump's mental instability.
Let me just say one thing very quickly about Steve Bannon, and that is that I would speculate here, not report, that he is very concerned that the story is now moving to Donald Trump's emotional stability and maturity. And reporters and Republicans on Capitol Hill are talking about it, and it's a big part of the story.
And understand, when Carl Bernstein says emotional maturity, that's a polite way of saying psychological status. I don't think anybody cares that Donald Trump is immature emotionally. I think it's that they're worried that he's a lunatic. But don't worry, he's on the job, he's on the case, he's working constantly. He doesn't have time to dilly-dally around, Donald Trump. He's got a lot of work to do, okay? It's not just, he's trying to organize a lot of photographs to be hung up on the walls. And he's very, very busy. You heard that interview with David Muir where he's like, I'm glad my family's not here because I get to work late. God. And here is an example of Donald Trump working. He's showing Sean Hannity all the changes he's made to decorating the Oval Office.
Countries that practice Sharia. By the way, we're in the Oval Office.
This is the Oval Office. It's a great statue of
that's Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
By the way,
there's the bust.
There's the bust.
The bust of Martin Luther King, which was falsely reported.
I pet it.
That it was taken out of the office. When I arrived, it was immediately taken out. These are lying people. These are bad people. And Martin Luther King is here, will always be here.
Look I pet him.
And the apology was this.
Yeah. Did you pick
And look
every
who's
painting
above.
in here?
Look, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson.
You get a shot of these.
I did.
You picked every
I
painting?
moved paintings around the White House. I just thought it would be great. So we have George Washington, Honest Abe Lincoln. You have Andrew Jackson, who they say was the most like my campaign because his was a vicious campaign.
It was a pretty rough campaign.
We have a book on
Slaughtered a
Adams
lot
and
of
Jefferson.
Native
That was the
Americans.
most vicious campaign in the history of our country until this campaign.
When you first walk in this office every day, and you think of it,
Great. Just take a look. And look at my desk. Papers. You don't see presidents with
I got one question.
Papers. Those are actually the same papers. We repurposed them from my press conference about how I divested from my company.
Oh my God, so many things. So many.
It's insane, folks.
Gonna reach out by patting.
I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do anything. Look at all the papers. I work very hard. I also rearranged all the paintings.
A lot of art objects to move around.
Why is he touching the Martin Luther King?
I'm patting it.
It's
I'm
so
patting
ridiculous.
Pat him on the head.
Patting him on the head.
Oh my God.
Patting him on the head. Why? What's wrong with that?
It's
All right.
unity.
Also, Donald Trump signed a document, an executive order the other day saying that he's definitely going to build a wall. And then, I guess this was just yesterday, he got upset when the president of Mexico said, well, guess what, dude? I'm not coming to meet with you because you're being a jackass. And so Donald Trump was like, all right, we're going to put a 20% tariff on all goods coming in from Mexico. And Sean Spicer informed us that's the decision the president has made. And then an hour later said that wasn't a decision the president made. It was one of the options he was contemplating as an example on how to raise revenue for the wall. And this is the game plan that Trump's fundraisers and supporters are going to follow. This is the IBC Bank chief executive, Dennis Nixon, who was a major Trump fundraiser, who I don't think he was surprised that Donald Trump wanted to build the wall, but just sort of felt like, look, I raised money for this guy, and we'll get rid of the bad stuff, and we'll just keep the good stuff that I like. Like, I'm not going to have to pay any estate taxes or any other taxes in the meantime. Here it is.
Dennis Nixon was one of the Trump campaign's top fundraisers in Texas, yet he opposes the wall.
You know, bad decisions are made when you don't have enough information to make a good decision.
Pause it. Now that really should be the beginning of him saying, and that's why I voted for Trump and supported him, right? In fact, that's how he got elected to the presidency, but that's not where he's going.
Texas, yet he opposes the wall.
You know, bad decisions are made when you don't have enough information to make a good decision.
And to be clear, this is coming from someone who spent a lot of time and money working for Donald Trump during
Correct.
the campaign.
Absolutely.
To those supporters who say the wall has to happen, that's why we voted, what do you say?
They're wrong because they haven't looked at the data. My main argument is the river is an effective barrier that we can use to provide that same level of security.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is really freaking out now because they're actually thinking there might be a wall, and that's going to be bad for them.
And they'd be hit by the sanctuary city stuff too, right?
That's right. And if there's a 20% tariff put on goods coming into this country from Mexico, it's going to be very, very, very expensive to live in Texas. Never mind guacamole, forget about it. Let's go to the phones. You're calling from a 215 area code. Who's this?
Hi, Sam. It's Mindy. How are
Hello,
you?
Mindy. How are you? How are you doing?
Hi. Oh, I'm okay. I'm hanging in there.
All right.
But this is what I want to say to you. I think this whole problem that we're having now is that we have no leader or a place to go with our ideas, because everybody I talk to has like a really good idea. I had a great idea this week. I even emailed it to you. I emailed it to a bunch of other people, and nobody's getting, nobody I don't.
It takes me a
think
week
that
to
we
get
need,
back to catch up on stuff.
No, I know, but I'm okay. I mean, I'm 57, so I don't need that immediate gratification like our kids do. But we need some high-profile people somewhere to create a hotline for good ideas to immobilize, something like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's people all over the country. Like, I had this great idea because, all the people that are lying, the alternative facts, like, because they're working for us, we should, like, protest the propaganda and, like, get them fired, like, protest that we don't want to see her, and maybe have, like, a media blackout day, or something after a march, or I don't know. But there's things that people that I'm talking to have all kinds of ideas. But I think the problem with the Democratic Party is that we're very passive people, and we're like a bunch of artists. We're free spirited. We're performers, and we're just not. We're like do sit-ins and stuff, but we're not crazy lunatics like the Republicans, and we just don't seem to be able to. Even though that march was beautiful, it should be every week. There should be something. We should keep shoving it up their butts just to keep doing it and doing it. And I think we need somebody somewhere to have something to mobilize so we can, like a think tank, I guess.
Well, I mean, there are some things like that, but we don't necessarily have the same sort of infrastructure that they have on the right. But I mean, why not just execute it yourself?
I don't know how to do that. I wouldn't even know how to go about doing that. That's what I'm saying. Like,
To do
we need
what?
somebody.
What was your idea, Mindy?
I had a great idea that my girlfriend and I had a great idea that we should protest the propaganda. When Kellyanne Conway came out with the alternative fact thing the other day, that was it. Like, I couldn't stomach her to begin with.
Okay,
but
so how would
that
you
was
protest
it.
the propaganda? Yes.
I don't know. I think that what we were thinking is that maybe we should do a media blackout day where everybody that puts her on puts so much pressure on the networks not to allow her, or anybody that lies that's a public service person that we're paying for, that if we can like fact check them and realize that there is no such thing as an alternative fact, then they shouldn't put them on. MSNBC should not put her on. I mean, if Fox wants to put her on, that's their problem. But we watch MSNBC and CNN.
Well, wait a second. Now, Mindy, why can't you organize a conditioned boycott of MSNBC, say?
How would that's what I'm trying to say to you. How would we go about, not just MSNBC, I think we should have a media blackout day.
I think that when you're going after herds, the best thing to do is actually just go after, the weakest one in the herd. You take that one out, and it sends a message. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the weakest. It could be the one that you have the most leverage with. And so how would you go about doing that? I mean, there's been,
I don't know.
We've seen, there's examples out there there were boycotts of Rush Limbaugh that people ran just from like a Twitter account. But I would imagine like a Facebook account would work where,
I have 300 friends.
Well, but wait a sec. But Mindy, if it's a good idea, then it will work. I mean, you can't call and say the problem with Democrats is we're all sort of not, we're all passive, and then say like I would do it, but I'm being too passive. Like you gotta.
I don't want to be too passive. I don't know how to get something like this started.
You go on your Facebook page.
Like
you go on your Facebook page, and you say, I think we should boycott X network or X show on X network as a show that we don't want to countenance Kellyanne Conway's propaganda. Just giving an example here, but and you keep getting your friends to try and share it with their friends. I mean, you remember the Breck commercial, right? They tell two friends, and then they tell two friends, and then the whole screen fills up with a bunch of Breck.
I mean, do you think this is like a good idea? that we should specifically target different subject matters, like once a week maybe, and go ahead and mobilize this either, like somehow?
I mean,
You
I
know what I'm
think.
saying?
Listen,
Like,
I think that if you could demonstrate at one point that you can impact the the ratings of a specific TV show, then yes, indeed, I think it's a good idea. You may not be able to do it. I mean, look, for every good idea that there's going to be X minus that actually attempted, and even X minus that are actually going to work. But, it's like sales calls, right? Like I've got to call 100 to get one that I make the sale. That's what maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. But, now's a very good time to we're in that stage right now where it's like, I don't know if there's such a thing as a bad idea. It's just what is worse is people just not doing them.
okay, so you just think it starts from the people, just the little people like me, like the little housewives in Bucks County that are sitting in their house freaking out.
That's where that
Like, we're
march
the ones
started
that-
from. That's who started that march. I mean, I don't think she was in Bucks County. Good, do it, and you call in, and I'll you see you call in and you send me a link, and we'll promote it.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think a march would be, do you think like a media blackout thing would be something that would be like...
I think a targeted thing might be really good. I mean, you find an example of the most egregious example of somebody who lets, Kellyanne Conway come on their program, spew whatever, and also find a show or a network where you feel like your friends support. Because, if your friends aren't watching Fox, boycotting Fox ain't going to do anything because they're not going to notice the difference. But if if your friends all go to a certain supermarket and you get everybody to boycott that supermarket, the supermarket's going to feel it. It's the same thing with, I think, a television network. And, we're not talking.
I'll do that.
Good.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll try to do it, and I'll keep you posted, and I'll send you an email and let you know how far I can get.
And if it doesn't work, you're going to learn stuff along the way so that the next one does. So it's definitely worthwhile.
So what do? I just put some kind of cool paragraph up on my Facebook post and keep doing it every day and
yeah, and I would get a sense of find that example of Kellyanne Conway saying something that was just an out and out fabrication or whatnot on a given show, and assess whether or not you and your friends, if everything went well, would have some measure of leverage on that show and or network, and take it from there.
All right, I do have to say something funny, really funny. My girlfriend Meryl, who voted for Trump,
Who?
is going tomorrow. This is funny for Friday. She's going to Mexico tomorrow for 6 weeks. And she voted for Trump. And yesterday I texted her. I said, hi, why don't you wear your Trump hat and shirt to Mexico? That should go over well. This was after the whole thing yesterday.
Yeah.
When the Mexican...
Is she going to do that?
And
no.
she goes, not funny. And I said, agreed. I said, you voted for him. And she goes, stop. I said, I'll never stop. You voted for him, and I wouldn't feel safe going to Mexico if I was you.
Well,
it kept going on. It kept going on.
Mindy has an interesting group of friends.
I know, Mindy. You could rent a plane to drag one of those banners behind it on the beach that your friend is at, explicitly stating in Spanish that she voted for Trump. If you really
She's
wanted to get her.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I hate her now, so I keep doing mean things to her. I feel like we're frenemies at this point. It's awful.
I
it's
understand
just really awful.
All right, well, I gotta say goodbye. All right, thanks, Mindy.
I just start that way. Okay,
All right,
gotcha,
bye.
Sam. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye-bye. All right, I only got another 10 minutes because I gotta go. Here's Dana Bash saying something that, I guess, do we have this picture now? Do you want to do this?
Yeah, this appears to be the same image. I'm looking to see where the larger Kelly. You wanted. This is the same image, and if this is true, the first one, the smaller one, is the official Getty image, and the second one is, I believe, one that the Trump team tweeted out.
Now it's possible if the first one there looks, so stop it. Are you? Oh, it's a GIF. I mean, it's hard to say. They may have just saturated the color and it sort of blew everything up, including his hand. No. But
it looks like they put the magnifying glass or whatever the thing is over it. It's
make my hand look bigger. Make my hand look bigger.
Not terribly sophisticated.
Make my hand look bigger. No, I would imagine. It's not hard to imagine that in the Trump organization, if a picture is put out of the president electoral, that he signs off on it. I want to sign off on every picture of me we put out. Yeah, it really, clearly makes his...
It's like those World War II pictures of the communists, the Russians on like the Reichstag with watches on both wrists.
Right. Now, I just have one question. Does it make my butt look fatter, or I don't care. I don't care about the butt. I want the hands to look big. I just want the hands to look big. Trump, non-Trump. Yeah, I don't care. It's fine. It is weird, too, that I will say this. It doesn't look like Obama gets any bigger. Just the hand. Is that possible?
His collar shrinks a little bit.
They messed with the hand.
Yeah, it looks like they just put that one cursor over that slightly magnifies the part that it's over.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because if you look at the officer in the back, nothing is getting bigger there because of the saturation change.
Wow.
It's not necessarily a saturation change. It's a color point change where they increased the black.
They changed the color, but they only inflated the size of the hand. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's so nuts, man. So nuts. All right. This is the only thing that I find even like remotely encouraging. But of course, they're not talking about politics, right? I mean, so much of this criticism of what's going to happen here, and to be fair, it's only been executive orders at this point, is focused on stuff that is like just arguably politics, or at least what they consider to be politics, as opposed to sort of like the actual policies that impact people. But here's Dana Bash. And she's pointing out that it's a little bit weird. We heard that the world was going to end with all these executive orders by Obama, but we don't hear that so much when it comes to Trump.
But then just bigger picture, to listen to a Republican president come out at the retreat of Republican members of Congress and spend the first 15 minutes bragging about all of the executive orders that he signed, after these Republicans spent 8 years railing against the Democratic president, President Obama, as an imperial president because he signed so many executive orders, was like a little bit the Twilight Zone. I mean, I understand some of the executive orders he said was to unsign, in his words, some of what President Obama did, but not all of them, not the wall, and not the pay freeze, and you go on down. So it was a little jarring that he's doing that and he's forcing the Congress to figure out a way to pay for it because of the pen that he used, not in an executive order, not legislatively. Yeah.
And you know what else I'd notice is like they haven't called guys like Rudy Giuliani the security czar. But do people remember like the complete freak out at the concept of czars? No. All right, one more. This is actually sort of funny. Matt Lewis is not as far as Republicans go, Matt Lewis is not a I found him not to be terribly obnoxious. But I also find this to be rather funny. So Matt Lewis apparently just wrote a piece in the Daily Beast saying maybe Republicans should contemplate punting on the Affordable Care Act replace and repeal thing because, well, I've dug into it, and it looks like it's going to be super hard to do that and achieve all the goals that we keep claiming can be achieved. Now, I don't know how many anti-Affordable Care Act pieces that Matt Lewis has written, but somebody on Twitter, and let's go to the top here. So Matt Lewis comes out and he tweets out his piece on the Daily Beast. I started trying to write a How the GOP Can Fix Obamacare column, but the more I learned, the more worried I got. And then it shows the title. Maybe on Obamacare, Republicans should just punt. And then some guy on Twitter, a guy named Mark Haman, said, Matt, this is the same Matt Lewis who said on DMZ show, I'm not sure which one that is, that the GOP absolutely has to repeal in just 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? Now, I'm going to assume that Matt Lewis wasn't talking about repeal just 2 or 3 weeks ago, but for the 8 years, well, maybe that's an exaggeration, the 5 years leading up to 2 or 3 weeks ago, saying absolutely has to repeal. And then Matt Lewis responded, yes, I set out to write a column on exactly how to do that. What I discovered chastened me. I want you to just contemplate.
He figured out what the hell was going on.
He figured out what the hell was going on. But just contemplate the idea that after supporting a party that has attempted to repeal this 55 times, 55 times, I don't know how many columns Matt Lewis wrote about the Daily Beast. And I don't mean to just single out Matt Lewis. But I mean, just contemplate how insane that is. Obamacare approved faked applicants, December 16th. Dems say Obamacare makes health care cheaper. Crowd laughs, October 6th, 2016. Conservatives confident rejecting Obamacare. Ready for... Back in 2013, Matt Lewis in the Daily Caller predicts triumphantly Obamacare struggles can open the door for Republicans to seize away. I'm just Googled this. Let's see. November 20th, he was on MSNBC saying it's not enough to say Obamacare bad. Matt Lewis says Republicans shouldn't repeal Obamacare and then wait to replace it later. He said that on January 6th. Matt Lewis show on February 26th. He had a show entitled A Conservative Alternative to Obamacare. I mean, that's just the first page on Google. Let's see. The 5 Ways to Defund Obamacare Crusade. Matt Lewis. Obamacare. Oh, that was 20. Let's see. Okay. I mean, Point taken. I think we get the point. And I think only, and the irony about this is that, the only reason why we're talking about Matt Lewis is because he's honest about it. So kudos for being honest, but let's try and learn a life lesson here. The next time you are railing against a policy for 5 or 6 years, well, to be fair, I think we got back as far as 2013. So 4 years, I know, weekly, monthly on podcasts and radio and YouTube. you should probably dig into it enough to write a column to see if it's possible. So we've learned a lesson. Kudos for the honesty. All right, one last sound, and then we'll do a couple of phone calls, and then I got to get going. I'm sorry, folks. This is Rachel Bronson. She is the executive director and publisher of the Bulletin for Atomic Scientists. Now, I know scientists, partisans, what's the difference in those two words, right? I mean, scientists, right? I mean, come on. So here she is. She's announcing that the doomsday clock has, it's still ticking. And here's why.
There is a troubling propensity to discount or outright reject expert advice related to international security, including the conclusions of intelligence experts. The board concludes in no uncertain terms that words matter in ensuring the safety and security of our planet. They are not the same as actions, but they matter a lot, especially when the risks of accident and miscalculation are so high. They have the ability to be walked back, but so too, as we have seen, influential actors alter their behavior in response to loose talk in ways that do not promote confidence and steadier, smart decision-making. In 2016, the board warned that 3 minutes to midnight is too close, far too close. Since then, inaction and brinkmanship have continued. Saber-rattling and the rhetoric, and loose but dangerous rhetoric, have become almost commonplace. To convey its concern about this unique moment and issue a call to leaders and citizens across the globe to put the world on a safer footing, the board takes the unprecedented step, the first time in its history, of moving the clock hand 30 seconds closer to midnight. Today, we move the clock a half minute closer to midnight. It is now 2.5 minutes to midnight.
And in this scenario, we do not turn into a pumpkin. Now, look, they're scientists, and they're just being all namby-pamby.
Good thing Trump's bedtime is after midnight.
That's right. Don't worry, I'm going to stay up all night to make sure that... Wait, what? Why did I do that one last? I don't know. Let's take a phone call. This is going to be a very cheery phone call. You're calling from an 818 area code. You better have something fun for us. Better something cheery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah? Who's this?
Oh, okay. This is Pete Perlman. How are you?
Hey, Pete. What's on your mind?
Well, I don't know how cheery this is going to be, but
it sounds like
I'm
not.
calling regarding this new system of the super chat.
Yeah.
And you briefly mentioned it. There's an obvious ambivalence because you get revenue from it, but and apparently YouTube is experimenting with this.
Right.
But like you mentioned an analogy to Citizens United, I mean, I really do think that's the crux of the problem there, and it's only going to escalate. Like it's a relatively small change now, $5-10 to get extra prominence, but as they raise their rates, only the rich ultimately have more access, and the wealthy, the poor or even middle class are left behind. It's like net neutrality.
It really is.
I'm afraid you're buying into a system that you're inherently against. What do you think about that?
I think that's not an illegitimate point. I mean, we're gonna try it out and see, and maybe we might can it.
At the same time, YouTube got rid of fan funding, so this is just an alternative, and we're not always going to be reading the we're not always going to be reading every chat. It's just a way for you to donate, really. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah,
also,
and you have other ways to donate, and in fact, I'm a subscriber, and I recently realized I'm putting out a sizable amount of money per year, but I'm continuing to do it because I really love your show.
I
you do
listen.
a great job.
It's something like like you say. It's a certain ambivalence. They just rolled it out. We're trying it out, and we'll see. But I
Okay,
think,
can I ask one other thing
Yeah.
about? I would love to see Kelly on camera more,
well,
or at all.
Oh, well, that is actually gonna. That's when you really got to step up the super chat.
Okay.
I appreciate the call. I was just joking. I was joking.
that if they want to see me on camera, they're going to have
Yeah,
to
step up
pay
on
a
it.
huge amount to super chat.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Calling from a 908 area code. Who's this? 908.
Hey, Sam. It's hi. It's Joe from the East Penn Democrats.
Hey, Joe, what's happening?
Yeah, I just was calling to just check in with you guys and let you know that I actually talked to our group about that info booklet, the idea you had.
Yeah.
And the group really, they liked it. So I'm actually working on a draft of that booklet right now for local organizing, how to construct a local democratic organization where
Excellent.
you can organize outside the party but still work with the party. And it's working right now. I mean, we already have a whole set of people that are looking to run for county commissioner.
What was your experience with this stuff before you started this?
Nothing. After the election, I wanted to get involved, and there were some other people that did as well. They worked for the volunteered for the Democratic campaign, for Clinton's campaign. That we all just got in contact with each other. Yeah, I just called one of the people I had worked for, that we had worked out of her house, and I called her like 3 days after the election. And I was just like, we got to do something.
I hope Mindy.
And,
Mindy, I hope you're listening.
Yeah, speaking of actually, Mindy, I was thinking, March 4th, there's actually going to be an event at Muhlenberg College, and we're actually neighbors. Mindy and I are, she's in Bucks County, I'm in Lehigh County. The counties butt up against each other. There's an event on March 4th called How We Fight Back, Building Your Community in the Age of Trump. That's being put on at Muhlenberg College. And if you just put that in, search that on the internet, you can find it. It's called How We Fight Back.
There you go.
It's being put on by, and there's going to be, I think right now there's over 40 nonprofits and like local organizations that are going to be there. It was actually supposed to be tomorrow, but they had to reschedule it because they put the event up. And this is one of our state representatives, Mike Schlossberg. He kind of spearheaded this, and they had to cancel it because so many people signed up in the first week. They oversold it.
Wow.
So it was like 250 people signed up, and they couldn't fit that many people in the halls, and like 40 local organizations said they wanted to be part of it.
Sweet.
So it's going to be.
It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it's so it's going to be March 4th, and if Mindy's still listening, there's going to be a lot of groups there that. If she doesn't feel like just doing something on her own, a lot of grassroots groups that she could get involved with.
Great.
And,
well, you provided the cheery call.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say too. When I called last time, it was we just got a great response. There was like people that called. We literally contacted our organization from coast to coast, asking for help. That they're trying to start groups, and what kind of help could we give them. We use Slack as an internal comms, and within like 5 minutes of me being off the call with you, people said, "Was somebody just on the majority report?" We're getting emails.
Oh, that's funny.
And I don't want to. Yeah, I want to keep the person's name private.
No, right, of course.
But I just want to say to whoever. Well, there was a bunch of people that called us, but there was someone actually that donated through our Act Blue account. Donated $500. There was a listener of the majority report. So I just want to say to that person that we really appreciate that. That's going to help elect progressives at a local level.
Wow.
And we really appreciate that help. And just one last thing on a quick note. I mean, I know you guys have kind of beat this to death talking about it, but this whole the whole thing with like the Dem exit people, like the Jimmy Dore wing of the progressive movement. It's stuff like this that like gets me really frustrated about it, because these people, I know some of them, like they share the guy's videos. They like talk, the real progressives, the aggressive progressive thing. They share all these videos. They're like saying how corrupt and they're like have this purity mentality, and but I haven't seen any of them at any of these events. I mean, in like 3 months, we managed to create a grassroots progressive organization working with them in the Democratic Party, and we're running candidates. And I don't know. That's why I'm really thankful for your show, because right there, like you've helped us. We got a $500 donation. We had other groups contact us. Help put grassroots organizations across the country in contact with each other just through this show. So I guess the positive thing with that is just let them talk, because we're actually over here doing the work, people like you and me.
Well, it's you. I mean, I really appreciate you calling in, and this is really encouraging, and for sure keep us updated, and make sure you let us know when you've got that document, because we will blast it out on our email list, and we'll put it on the show, and we'll put it on the site, and put it on Twitter, and we'll get it everywhere. And I hope Mindy shows up at Muhlenberg.
Yes, I do too. And for anyone else that's listening this time, we have a lot of people that don't mind talking about this stuff, that want to help other groups. So if you go to eastpenndemocrats.org, if you want to get in contact with us, we will definitely are willing to, help in any way we can.
eastpenn.org.
Yeah,
right.
eastpenndemocratclub.org. Yep.
eastpenndemocraticlub.org. Okay, great. We'll put that on the website as well. Thanks, man.
All
Appreciate
right,
the call.
Ben.
Really do.
Great talking to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Awesome. I feel like we should end the show there. But let me just take 5 IMs, and then we will. I'm sorry, callers, I can't get to you. That's great. Also,
are we gonna have a part on the new the website with this sort of stuff, like a section that'd be?
Yeah, we've got to. We were talking about that. We've got to figure out how that's going to work. But we will have something that will at least aggregate this stuff. But maybe we got to come up with another system for it. Also, someone wants us to mention NoOneLeft.org. NoOneLeft.org. It is a site that is attempting to raise money for Afghanis who helped U.S. forces by translating and are being sent back to Afghanistan, which, of course, is problematic, to say the least. So check that out, NoOneLeft.org. All right, let's take some IMs. Folks, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get to a lot of this, obviously. Matt, give me a letter.
D.
D for Dick Dastardly. You tell that cuck Michael that he no longer has to be referred to as a comrade after his weak-ass statement yesterday about how he wouldn't punch a Nazi. Comrade Kelly, welcome to the inner folds of the far left where we punch fascists. Kelly, give me a letter.
C.
C. Colleen, wasn't it less than a year ago that we thought Republicans were washed up? Whatever happened to Doug? Doug left us a long time ago when he decided.
Doug was a plant paid by the Trump campaign.
Is that what? Are you serious?
I'm making it up, but maybe.
It was less than a year ago that we thought that we all thought Republicans were washed up. I mean, I would say it was more like 2 or 3 months ago, to be honest with you. And if 70,000 votes had gone the other way, they would be having a reckoning of their own, but it didn't, and bad things happened. Matt, give me a letter.
R.
Roger Larkin. Hey, guys, it's Rob in Reno. Can I get a birthday shofar for my wife, Rachel? She's a mother of 5 and 1-year cancer survivor. Here you go, Rachel. Happy birthday. Kelly. A letter.
M.
Wow. You really had to think about that, didn't you? All right, well, I'm doing N because that's what I saw. Reed Cliff's chat. Blue State Chuck Schumer has voted to approve all nominees so far. GOP president's ratings are low now, but will rise when the war starts because people rally around the president. I don't see super chat on the app. No, we don't have that. I don't know. I really do got to think about that super chat because I sort of don't like that idea of it. Jay Chavone. Kellyanne was on the Today Show to claim that all the Trump associates who are accused of having multiple voter registrations do not, in fact, have multiple registrations. She has no knowledge of the registrations and denies malfeasance reflexively, putting her lie aside, the key point that she doesn't know anything enough to comment on most anything. All right, and the final I am of the day will come from... Let's see. Okajik. Hi, Sam. I think Dem leadership needs to hear from us now regarding the direction of the party, its agenda, and its strategy. If a huge number of Dem base can sign on to a thorough yet succinct statement, I think it'll have a real effect. What's the best way to do this so the max number of people sign? I would imagine it's one of those petition things, right?
A Grover Norquist style pledge type of
thing. But that has to come from a group that has a lot of money. That's the only problem. I would say maybe one of those petitions or, try and get Move On because they vote up what their members say. So we'll look into that more. All right, folks, look for our newsletter in the coming days. It's going to have some resources for you. See you Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bulb, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. Shifted